Meeting call to order. Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember Clayton.
Here.
Councilmember Kendall.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
And additional staff that are attending the meeting are City Manager Donna Viero, City Attorney Frederick Raffetto, Michael Manzella, Deputy City Manager and Director of Transportation, Michelle Alonso, Director of Planning and Zoning. We also have Beth McManus of Kyle and McManus Associates, the city's affordable housing planner. We will now have a silent prayer, a moment of reflection. We will now salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. As to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. The annual notice was forwarded to the Asbury Park Press, the Coaster, the Star Ledger on January 7th, 2020, posted on the bulletin board the same date. All notices are on file with the city clerk. We are now on to public participation. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Do I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Jeffrey Kendall,
Move to open.
no, to the public.
No, hold on one second.
Hold on. Yeah.
Yes, we usually start with council remarks, city manager's remarks, attorney remarks, I believe, and then we go to the public.
Okay, you want to do that first? Okay. All right, matters from the city council.
Maureen Chapman. So I just want to once again thank everyone. Thank those who keep us safe and healthy, our first responders, essential workers, and volunteers. I also want to give a shout out to our residents who are following recommendations to wear masks when leaving their homes, and those who practice social distancing in order to keep our beaches and pathways and other places in the city open. It's essential that everyone follow these guidelines and adhere to all of the guidelines that are laid out. In addition, I'd just like to let people know that there is now free transportation in the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to a grant from the New Jersey Health Incentives, Easy Ride will offer free rides to Asbury Park residents to go for medical appointments and grocery shopping using Lyft and Uber for as long as funding is available. For more information, visit www.cityofasburypark.com/free ride. And Michael, I'm wondering if there's a phone number for people to call if they don't actually have a computer.
They don't need to have a computer. They just need to have a cell phone, and they call that same number to get their ride.
Okay, so it's all done online.
Yeah, it's all done through a phone number. Phone. They just call the number.
So the information I have is www.cityofasburypark. I didn't have a phone number.
Yeah, so the phone number will be listed there.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll get it up on the website.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Take care.
Oh, it's me.
Councilmember Clayton.
Fine.
Okay. I want to echo what Eileen has said. We are thanking everyone that is being supportive and giving us services and doing all the things that are necessary to keep us all going. And I want to thank our residents who have just been doing such a wonderful job of staying together, being together. And lastly, I want to offer my condolences to all the people in our city and surrounding areas who have lost loved ones and family members, and saying that we are keeping you in our hearts and our prayers. That's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Kendall?
This is Councilman Kendall. I agree with what Yvonne is saying. I was thinking the same thing about the condolence, and I also would like to say thank you. And just keep the faith. We're all in this together, and we really appreciate that the people in Asbury Park trust in the council. So stay blessed. That's it.
Deputy Mayor Quinn?
Yeah, also echo everything that's already been said. Two quick things. Last time I looked, and I think Eileen shared it on social media, our census, we are not where we need to be with people taking the census. We're less than 40%. And in order for us to get funding for just multiple things, we need to show, you know, how many people are living here. So I just want to strongly urge people to take the census while you're home. And the VNA on Main Street it has started to test for COVID. You have to be showing symptoms, and you have to call in ahead to make an appointment in order to get the test. But the VNA in Asbury just started testing, I think yesterday afternoon. That's it.
Mayor Moore? Mayor Moore? Mayor Moore, do you have any comments?
Yes, he does. I'm sure he's there. Just give him a minute.
Michael?
Hold on one second. Tell him talk. Soon I'm done talking.
Okay, can you hold on a minute?
Okay, thank you. A couple of quick things. I urge and I beg all, when you're out in public, to wear the mask for face protections at all times. Please do that when you're in public. I would like to thank all of our employees, no matter what their classification as, first responders or whatever. You are all essential in keeping the city operating. So I thank all of our employees. A couple of quick friendly reminders. The public session is 3 minutes, and you can comment or ask questions about any matter, including ordinances that have already been voted on. Again, this is the only time you can comment or ask questions specific to ordinances already voted on. Once we get to the individual ordinances, all comments and questions have to stay on topic to the ordinance open to the public. If the city feels you are not on topic to that ordinance, we will respectfully ask you to cease and return to the specific ordinance before all of us at that time. We're hopeful we can get through tonight's agenda in a reasonable time frame. If not, I will ask for all remaining business to be moved to the May 13th meeting. And thank you.
City Manager Viero?
Nothing to update, Melody.
Thank you. City Attorney Raffetto?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to the public participation. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Do I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Jesse Kendall,
Move it. Eileen Chapman.
motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
None opposed? Meeting open to the public. I am not seeing any hand raised.
There are hand
Well,
raised.
okay, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
You got him?
I got them. Yep. Calling upon 6942. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Carrie Butch calling. I'm calling from 500 Deer Lake Drive. I want to say thank you for the work that you guys did on the rideshare program. And in addition, it's exciting to hear that there's testing available in Asbury Park. So I appreciate that. But I wanted to get back to you on the concerns that I raised at the last meeting, which were additional communication and additional education for folks in Asbury Park. And I did want to point out that the City of Newark developed a 5-point plan, which included focusing on 5 key areas to protect their residents, which were education, testing, enforcement, recovery, and results. And what they did was they worked with partnering with their mayors that were right next door, which were East Orange, Orange, and Irvington. I'm wondering if we're working with Neptune. I'm wondering if that's happening in Ocean Township and Bradley Beach and our Luck Harbor, if we're working with them. In addition, they tracked hotspots using public safety technology. I'm wondering if we're doing that, if we're tracking hotspots. I'm losing it, so forgive me. Anyway, in addition, it's going to be pretty crowded here over the weekend, and I can tell you that we did a kind of an unofficial survey of mask wearing, and in some neighborhoods there's not a lot of mask wearing, and in other neighborhoods it's not terrible, and then in addition there are some places where it's actually pretty good, but the places where we're finding people aren't wearing masks are like down by the boardwalk.
You have 1 minute left, Carrie.
Down by the boardwalk, people are, it's kind of like, down by the boardwalk in my neighborhood, it's kind of like the feel is that it's coronavirus free. So people aren't wearing masks. So I'm wondering if there's can be some additional kind of communications to people so that they know when even people come down for the weekend, if they come down for the weekend, that we really want them to practice social distancing as well as wear masks. So in addition, I asked you last time if you would provide people that needed it with masks. I wanted to know if you guys are going to be doing that. And in addition, just more communication. So that's it. That's all my stuff.
Thank you, Carrie. And as far as communications with other mayors, yes, I talked to Mayor Siciliano. I've talked to Mayor Lane from Neptune. We're in touch with each other as far as working together as far as like Newark and everything. I think Newark and like East Orange and everything have much more resources than we do. We're in constant communication with each other. And again, I'm going to tell you truthfully, and I know you didn't like it the last time, both the mayors and their constituents are saying, thank you, Asbury Park, for getting out the most and the best information for the immediate area. As far as like the buying masks for everybody, again, we're keeping enough for our first responders. If that's something we can do down the road, it's something we'll look into. As far as like your comments, buy condoms like the city did in the 1980s. Number one, you weren't here. Number two, the city did not do that. So, and I know you said like last time you talked, you could not respond. Yeah, because once you say you're up, we mute you. So it's not, we didn't cut you off. It's just like your time is up. So we go on to the next person. I respond. And if I missed any of other concerns and somebody wants to reply to them, because I was on the other phone, I apologize. So if I missed anything and somebody wants to respond, please feel free.
Yeah, I'm just going to say something real quick to Carrie and to, you know, the people listening. We have sent numerous, I don't want to say countless, but certainly numerous requests to the Monmouth County Board of Health. And those requests consisted of, you know, hotspots. You know, we wanted to know where hotspots were. We wanted to know about any fatalities that have taken place in Asbury Park. We wanted to know of any if there were numbers on recovery broken down by town. And we wanted to know, there was a question related to if I tested positive today, I go back to test in 3 weeks and I still test positive, is that counting as just one test or two? So these have repeatedly been sent. I can certainly tell you the fatalities have been sent for the last 6 weeks, particularly because Ocean County's Department of Health sent them out broken down via town. Why we aren't, I don't know. I think I speak for the entire council when I say, and the administration, we are frustrated. The more in the pandemic, the more information that everybody has, the better. But we repeatedly and will continue to repeatedly ask for this information. I'm done. That was Amy.
Anyone else? Okay, I am now moving on to 1133. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, yes, Felicia Simmons, 1034 Sewell Avenue, Asbury Park, New Jersey. And Felicia, and is my 3 minutes started?
Yeah.
Hello. Parsha, I'm calling mostly about the ordinances that are taking place and have taken place in the past in the process in which the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition has worked with the city throughout the last 3 years, looking for a betterment of the city on our watch and make sure that everyone in the city who wants to live here and provide a needed component to the city's tapestry is allowed to stay here and live here on a permanent basis. We part of the process, which we found at the last, after 3 years at the last planning board meeting, is that there were some holes in which some of the developers, or if somebody was a bad actor, could slip through, right? And those 3 ordinances that was planned, 3 to 4 ordinances that was planned by the planning board. The city, we went to the city, Affordable Housing, Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, and Fair Share Housing, and we worked together to come up with the additional ordinances to fill in the gap in the previous ordinances, which most of the complaints and the voices that I heard on the last phone call were about the initial 3 ordinances that was passed, right? The ordinances tonight will fill in those gaps. There's a lot of misinformation and cross-information. And if I was just reading the ordinances alone or the things sent out recently, I would be hugely confused. But these are just a glimpse of a bigger document, which is the 10-year master plan.
1 minute left.
We need to also, I'm just going to cut short is saying we need to listen, we need to work together. These ordinances are not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. And what we have is an opportunity to continue to make something great happen here in Asbury Park, right? And also just to add in at the end, right, with the mask things, I have friends up north, and when I do my meal disposition and give out meals, and we pass out masks because they gifted us, along with some of the meals, masks to pass out. You can look in the co-order plan and get money from the county to purchase masks to give out on a bigger, bulker level. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Felicia. And to this point in time, we have not received 1 penny from the county. So we can ask the county. They got the $108 million. They haven't distributed 1 penny yet. And a lot of people think it's $108 million for 53 municipalities. No, it's $108 million for 53 municipalities in the county. So the big question is, how much is the county going to gobble up before it goes to the 53 municipalities? I believe they will be fair and just, but we know they're going to gobble up a nice percentage of it. But again, thank you, Felicia.
I'm calling on 2954. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bassam Georgi, and I am a staff attorney at Fair Share Housing Center. I'm calling this evening to comment on the inclusionary zoning ordinances that are being considered by the council. And I was asked by our executive director, Adam Gordon, to make this statement on behalf of Fair Share Housing Center. For those that are unfamiliar, Fair Share Housing Center is a New Jersey-based nonprofit that is dedicated advocating for the housing rights of New Jersey's working families. We work and advocate to make sure that all families in New Jersey have access to housing that is safe, decent, and affordable. Over the past few years, representatives of Fair Share Housing Center have heard regularly from members of, as Felicia just mentioned, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition and others who are concerned about the escalating cost of housing and the fact that many of Asbury Park's longtime residents are being priced out of the city. Almost everyone we have heard from has a personal story about how rising housing prices have affected them or someone they know. And these stories reflect the growing need for housing that is safe, decent, and affordable in Asbury Park. And the need for affordable housing is reflected not just in the personal narratives, but in the publicly available data. To give just one example, according to the United States Census Bureau, in 2011, the median rent in Asbury Park was $964 per month. 7 years later, in 2018, the median rent had climbed from $964 to about $1,300 per month, a 35% increase in monthly rent prices in the city in just 7 years. I don't think many of us can claim that our salaries or wages went up by 35% in 7 years. And this data and the many personal stories that have been shared with us at Fair Share Housing Center detail some of the significant financial pressures that many Asbury Park residents face, and they demonstrate the urgent need to ensure that new development and redevelopment in Asbury Park is inclusionary and has an affordable housing requirement built in. The ordinances, the inclusionary zoning ordinances being considered tonight that require new development to set aside a percentage of the units as affordable is one of the most
You have 1 minute left.
I might need an extra 30 seconds if that's okay, but you know, you can cut me off. But the ordinances being considered tonight are among some of the most common and arguably one of the most effective ways.
Sir,
yes.
sir,
yes,
let me just cut you off
right.
for a second. I'll give you back this 15 seconds. No, we're going to keep everybody to the 3 minutes, and that's the only way we can be fair. So if we cut you off, but again, I'll give you another 20 seconds for me interrupting you.
I appreciate that, and I understand. I'm going to skip ahead then, and I'm going to say this. You know, it's been documented that when families have access to housing that is affordable, children in those families are more likely to attend college, will have higher incomes as adults, and will live healthier lives with decreased chances of asthma, obesity, and other health consequences, and that affordable housing contributes to the growth of a balanced, vibrant local economy. Over the past few years, we at Fair Share Housing Center have been engaged in collaborative discussions in Asbury Park with residents, advocates, and the city's elected leaders regarding strategies to ensure that new development and redevelopment includes affordable housing. And the ordinances being considered tonight are an important part of accomplishing that goal. The ordinances will make sure that new development is not limited just to the rich, but includes moderate, low, and very low income folks, many of whom are essential workers that we all owe a special debt of gratitude right now, such as retail workers, home healthcare workers, nurses, first responders, and many others. And so to conclude, I'd say for these reasons and many others, Fair Share Housing Center is very pleased to support the adoption of these affordable housing ordinances.
Time's up.
And it applauds the hard work of everyone who came together to make them happen. So we'd urge the council to adopt them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I am calling on 5124. Please state your name and address for the record.
That's 732-988-5124. They're unmuted, Melody. They may just not be there.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on then to 3444. Please state your name and address for the record.
Greetings. My name is Derek Minnow Bloom. I live at 1108 First Avenue, and I'm part of the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, as well as the Social and Food Justice Director at Trinity Episcopal Church here in town. Due to time constraints, four members from the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition came up with this press release that I'm just going to read. We, the Affordable Housing Coalition, are an independent, grassroots, directly democratic community group of residents working with the city to create affordable housing ordinances for the entire city. And we wish to respond to some of the comments and questions made last council meeting on 4/22. 1, in this current process, the city provided a full open participation to all residents with the drafting of this affordable housing plan. It went through the planning board twice, and it also has been part of the master plan for affordable housing, which has also been made public multiple times. 2, there was no particular preference to please any developer on the part of the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, but to try to create a diverse plan for the entire city of Asbury Park. 3, the final process of passing these ordinances, which we're very excited about, coincidentally occurred during the pandemic, but has taken 3 years and many public meetings to get to this point. As a city, we can't wait any longer to make sure affordable housing is in stone, especially during COVID-19. Plus, we feel that most people have phones and can easily call into the meeting. 4, last meeting it was said that this affordable housing plan is going to create ghettos. But in fact, this plan is doing the opposite. This plan makes sure there's mixed affordable income housing all over the city and not just in one place. This plan will make Asbury Park more inclusive by welcoming people of all ethnicities and incomes all over the city, just not in one place. And then lastly, we have worked with the city of Asbury Park on affordable housing plans for over the last 3 years as the process has had its ups and downs. The city has been transparent and open public process on updating the community on the development.
1 minute left,
plan.
Eric.
Thanks. The Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition has been there to give our input and advice, and the city constantly worked to make sure our voices, along with Fair Share, were heard in this affordable housing process. We have injected solutions to make this plan the best that it could possibly be for the time being, knowing there could be more we could do in the future, but that this time, this is the best possible plan to save residents that are being pushed out of Asbury Park. The price of creating diversity in our community is that there will be sacrifices for some, and that not everyone will be happy. But it is our intention to make Asbury Park as diverse as possible, and we feel that this plan has accomplished that. And so we endorse this passage of this plan tonight and last meeting in totality. We encourage any residents who are interested in fighting for housing in the waterfront to join us, because we feel that all areas need to sacrifice and stand together to create a more healthy, diverse city for all. And thank you to the City Council, Beth, and all members who worked hard on these ordinances to support Asbury Park being a more equitable city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I am moving on to 3350. 3350, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey, also known as the Santander. Of course, I was at the last meeting virtually. I'd just like to report that after that meeting, both on the city Facebook sites, other sites, business sites, personal sites, I have been attacked, threatened, called horrible names, endangering me. And why? Because I don't agree with condomania and the bait and switch that goes on here. It doesn't matter how many professionals you bring in. Anybody who lives here can walk around and see that where is affordable housing? In the Ocean Club? How about North Beach? This is like a bait and switch, really. You say, well, we'll give 20% affordable if you give us 80% luxury. And if you do that, we're going to give you a tax abatement, a pilot program so that you don't pay school taxes. And here we are now. You're coming after us in that all areas with now you want us to make up for the failed Asbury school. Money, we don't know where it goes. The worst performance in the state, crime, corruption. And what do you do when people bring out the facts? You attack them on Facebook, calling them the Unabomber and insane and crazy. Really? Why don't you look at yourselves? Let's check the facts on the crime and corruption in Asbury Park, going back to that famous, infamous 2002 redevelopment plan that was signed by felons in Asbury, who all most of them got arrested in Operation Bid Rig, selling body parts and horrible things. And what do you put out to the public now? Oh, let's forget about that. That never happened. Let's just look at now. And then we have to listen to people distort the facts. People distort the facts like Amy Quinn. Here's a person who owns 2 units in the building I'm living in, and we're struggling. We're going bankrupt. It's not fit for human living, and she won't help us a bit. You know, and then you got all the scandals on Cookman with words and all these other things. and these conflicts of interest and things that you all are posting, which you think are personal, public, they're not. And it shows how many conflicts exist between the city attorney, the planners, the this, to that. They break bread together, and they do a lot more than that together. And then they get all these fake people to call up and tell how great this is. It's going to help everybody in Asbury. That's all baloney. It's baloney. Now, what else can I bring up? Yeah, and Mr. John Moore, Mayor, you better start talking to people like your cops and their brothers, like this Matt Joseph.
Time's up.
Thank you. And I gotta say, as much as I think the schools have some problem, I totally disagree with you as you labeled it, a failed Asbury Park school system. Thank you. Next.
I'm now moving on to 3510. 3510, please state your name and address for the record.
Maureen Nevin, D Lake Court, Asbury Park. Hi, Melody.
Hi, Maureen.
Hi. I've got two questions here. With the Wednesday meeting, the 5-hour meeting, and this has been a very good airing of all different aspects of what's going on with the affordable housing plan. It's been mentioned by several people that alternatives such as the research into rent control or rent stabilization has been studied for a while. In fact, it was introduced when they first started studying the affordable housing plan 3 years ago. So I'd like to know what the status is of that, if you could answer that tonight. And I'm having a problem calling up the graphics. I wonder if maybe Mike Manzella could explain how we're supposed to get them. I did click on the link, and what it did was it launched my Zoom software, which I didn't really need to do. I just wanted to follow along with the graphics, and I could use some advice on how to get a hold of the graphics now. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Maureen. Michael, you want to respond as far as the graphics?
Yeah, as far as the graphics, the only thing that we're showing on the screen during these meetings are the topic that is being discussed at hand. There's no additional information other than the title of the ordinance. But if you would like to participate and see that on the screen, all you need to do is click the Zoom link and download Zoom. And then the meeting should open up and you should be able to see what's being shared. But like I said, it's only the title of the ordinance that's being discussed at any given time.
Okay, I'll try that, because it did start to do that, but maybe because the meeting hadn't gotten underway. So I'll try that again on my laptop.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome.
Okay. Comments closed? Okay. I'm moving on to 6149. 6149, please state your name and address for the record.
Myra Campbell, Madison Avenue, Asbury Park. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I'd like to recognize Skylar Herbert, the 5-year-old youngest known victim of COVID. Her dad was a firefighter for 18 years, and mother, 25-year veteran of the police department, and also Dr. Lorna Bring, a NYC emergency doctor who treated COVID patients, contracted and recovered herself from the disease, and on April 26th committed suicide. Please take a moment tonight to say a prayer or take a moment of silence for our COVID victims. As a PSA message for me, no citizen should ingest, drink, or inject any disinfectant, including bleach or Lysol. You could die from putting these items in your body. The American Association of Poison Control was inundated with calls after the president's remarks. Words matter, carry weight, and have influence. After an Arizona man and his wife took a small amount of chloroquine phosphate, he ended up dying. They took it because of the public message the president announced. Governors Murphy, Cuomo, Mayors Fulop of Jersey City, Baraka of Newark, Gossiera of Trenton. Well, Corona can jump over the ocean. It can jump over high walls, no matter how high. Corona can jump over all American states. Corona is in Asbury Park. Which do the above government officials serve with the city? They represent and have a high proportion of Black and Latino constituents. I'm looking to either AP's mayor or the acting mayor to be the face of the city and represent the entire community. When you state the city is doing a great job, please don't follow as your role model the person in the White House. Fact-finding check.
1 minute
He
left.
does not know the truth. Surrounding yourself with people that tell you what you want to hear is a deficient. I'm gonna move on. I'm hoping that the city council will look into diverse COVID task force in Asbury Park. What is the target of hot spots in the city with specific number of cases, deaths, and where are they in Asbury Park? How have you addressed the areas most likely to spread COVID area? What is the failure rate, or could you achieve the number of percentage of Blacks that are dying from corona disease nationwide and at home in Asbury Park? I've got to say this before my time's up. Today at 4:15, I received a call from the Freehold YMCA asking me, a senior citizen who lives alone, am I okay, or if I need something?
Time's up.
No one from Asbury Park has done that. I will include the rest of my remarks possibly in the newspaper. Thank you.
Any replies? Okay, I am moving on to
No, hold on.
Okay.
Melody, hold on a second. I thought
Sure.
I was on mute. I don't know why Myra kept on talking after the 3 minutes, but whatever. Myra, thank you. As far as, again, it's a repeat question, a repeat answer. As far as specific cases, hotspots, percentage of Blacks, whites, Hispanics, this is something we have asked the county for every day. They will not give it to us because of HIPAA violation or anything else. Please feel free to reach out to the county with you and your group or whoever and get us assistance and say, I agree with mayor and council, we need this information. We've asked for it every day. We don't get it every day. No other town, either 53 municipalities in Monmouth County, get it. Thank you.
Hey, I am now calling on 6176. 6176. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. Pam Lamberton, Sunset Avenue. It has taken 3 years to get tonight's affordable housing ordinances hammered out. It is very frustrating to hear people imply the process was not transparent. I myself attended maybe 15 to 20 meetings total during that time, and they were always open to the public. I am currently a member of the Dialogue, AP's Complete Streets, and SAW, Save Asbury Waterfront. Each of these grassroots organizations share in their mission statements the belief in equitable access to our city. This includes access to city facilities, the waterfront, food sustenance, streets, education, modes of transportation, and housing. The suite of affordable housing ordinances the council is considering this month are aligned with the missions of each of these organizations I mentioned. I strongly support passage of tonight's ordinances. I'm a 20-year resident of AP. I have been active in local politics for all of those 20 years. I sat on the zoning board for 9 years and know how the need for housing has changed and evolved. I chaired the city's first sustainability committee and understand resource allocation vis-a-vis city inventory. I chaired the Charter Study Commission and understand public meeting protocol and legal access to process. I've decided to express my opinion on the suite of affordable housing ordinances using 3 minutes of public participation rather than address the council on each individual ordinance. I encourage other members of the public to do the same. Refrain from restating the same support or objection for each individual ordinance over and over. Last week's meeting was lengthy due to some members of the public repeating themselves. Other members of the public were able to be courteous, respectful, and got their points across without belaboring a point or two. Listening at home, it appeared to me that at least one participant who complained about how late the hour was in fact the main reason the hour was so late. I would not deny anyone's right to speak.
You have 1
but
minute
you must
left.
realize, thank you. You must realize that sometimes if you speak repetitively, people tune you out. You might have a good point, which will be lost. I encourage everyone to be as concise as possible, and perhaps tonight's meeting will end at a reasonable hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I am now calling on 5481. 5481, please state your name and address for the record.
Tracy Rogers, Sewell Avenue. First, I'd like to say that we need to come together as a community during this pandemic. And, you know, I believe this community can stand up and be leaders throughout ourselves to make sure that we're helping everyone. So I just hope we can all come together and work on this. As a part of the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, I listened to a lot of the comments that were addressed last week, and I was kind of set back on some of the comments. But more or less, I want everyone to have an open opportunity to speak on these ordinances. We want, and as Asbury Park Affordable Housing, we want inclusivity. So I mean, you know, all people to be involved in the discussion, and the city has provided that through all of its meetings, through the planning board, and we want to continue that. We just have to set a benchmark to realize that there is a mission of making sure that people who have lived here, people who have worked here, seniors, teachers, residents who've lived here all their lives, aren't pushed out by high luxury rental units that are being created. We've created over 1,000 units and only created 50 affordable housing units, subtracting from the 120 units that were Boston Way that were low income but turned into affordable. So, you know, we haven't made a big leap, and with this ordinance, we hope that we'll continue to move forward. This is not the best plan. This is the best plan we have right now. And right now, we need to work on other issues of rent control and looking at the waterfront to create more affordable housing. But
1 minute
we all
left.
have to realize, thank you, we all have to realize that every section of this community, to be a diverse community, has to sacrifice and be a part of being what we want as a united, diverse community. And I think we can do that. And I think these ordinances set forth that ability to create what we're starting. And hopefully we can do more. And I appreciate everyone that's taken their time through this 3 years to accomplish that. And I look forward to being involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not seeing any more hands raised, a motion to close the meeting to the public?
Move it,
Move
Jesse
to-
Kendall.
Second, Eileen Chapman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Meeting closed to the public. We are now on to individual resolutions. We have Resolution 2020-154, a resolution authorizing and directing the tax collector to extend the second quarter 2020 grace period. Do I have a motion? And please remember to identify yourself.
Move it, Amy.
Second, Yvonne Clayton.
Okay, we will now move on to the roll call. Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We are now on to second readings, public hearings. We will now have a statement read by Beth McManus.
Good evening, everybody. This is Beth McManus, and given the hearing last week and some of the misinformation and lack of history some folks have, we put together a statement just to provide some background on what we're doing this evening, as well as the hearing earlier in the month. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to read this statement. The Affordable Housing Ordinances scheduled for public hearing in April 2020 are the culmination of a multi-year process that was performed in coordination with the Asbury Park Planning Board, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, and the Fair Share Housing Center. By way of background, it had become evident with Asbury Park's rebirth over the last 2 decades that longtime residents were becoming priced out of the city. The City Council made it one of their utmost priorities to remedy what was becoming an affordability issue for many residents and began the process of ensuring the provision of affordable housing in the city. The process started with the Planning Board's preparation and adoption of a new master plan and re-examination report in accordance with NJSA 40:55D-89. The updated master plan was adopted in December 2017 and includes several affordable housing objectives that started the process we are conducting tonight. Relevant housing objectives and recommendations from the re-examination report include, but are not limited to, fully integrate affordable housing throughout the city, both within projects and geographically throughout Asbury Park, identify inclusionary zoning opportunities, and adopt a housing element and fair share plan. These objectives and recommendations, as well as the others throughout the master plan document, were based on input received and subject to 5 stakeholder meetings and 2 community public input meetings, as well as a public hearing at the Planning Board level. The Planning Board implemented the housing objectives and recommendations beginning in 2018 with preparation of a housing plan, formerly referred to as a housing element fair share plan. The housing plan was later adopted by the Planning Board in February 2019. Included in the adopted housing plan are specific recommendations for preparation of each of the affordable housing ordinances that are being considered by the Council this month. The housing plan was prepared with the guidance of a subcommittee composed of councilpersons Amy Quinn and Yvonne Clayton, former city manager Michael Capobianco, Director of Planning and Redevelopment Michelle Alonso, and Cassandra Dickerson, Director of Community Development. Additionally, the housing plan was prepared with significant input from the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, whose members include, but may not be limited to, Felicia Simmons, Tracy Rogers, Derek Minow Bloom, and Randy Moore, along with representatives of Fair Share Housing Center. Meetings related to the preparation of the housing plan, involving the subcommittee, the Affordable Housing Coalition, Fair Share Housing Center, the Planning Board, and/or City Council were held on at least 9 separate dates, including January 18, 2018 for the subcommittee, April 25th, 2018 for the subcommittee Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center, June 7th, there was a community meeting, August 22nd, 2018, attendance at an art commission meeting, October 4, 2018 subcommittee meeting, October 11th, 2018 community meeting, November 26, 2018 Planning Board, January 28, 2019 Planning Board, and then on February 25th, 2019, the Planning Board adopted the housing plan. After the housing plan was adopted, and at the urging of Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center, the city began the process of developing ordinances to implement the goals and objectives set forth in the housing plan by issuing an RFQ to seek consultant to assist the city in the preparation of the implementing ordinances. Once the consultant was selected, the city convened a new subcommittee to provide guidance as to the preparation of these implementing ordinances. The subcommittee included Cassandra Dickinson, of Director of Community Development, Principal Planner Mark Siegel, City Attorney Fred Raffetto, City Manager Donna Viero, Councilpersons Amy Quinn, Yvonne Clayton, and Director of Planning and Redevelopment Michelle Alonso. Similar to the preparation of the housing plan, the ordinance preparation process was subject to significant input from the Affordable Housing Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center. At least 10 meetings in furtherance of this process occurred with the subcommittee, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, Fair Share Housing Center, the Planning Board, and/or City Council. Those meetings included the following. On May 16th, there was a subcommittee meeting, 2019 subcommittee meeting. August 13th, 2019, there's a meeting of subcommittee with representatives of the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center. October 23rd, council meeting. December 5th, 2019, Michelle Alonso and I met. January 2nd, 2020, the subcommittee meeting. February 20th, 2020, there was a meeting of subcommittee with representatives of the Asbury Park Housing Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center. On February 26th, 2020, there was a council meeting. On March 9th, 2020, there was a planning board meeting. And this one in particular is important because that was a public input meeting where these ordinances were noticed in order to generate public comment and review of the ordinances by the planning board. And that occurred over the course of a few hours. We also had, of course, March 25th, 2020, a council meeting where there was a first reading of the ordinances. And then April 22nd, 2020, council meeting, which ends the public hearings and second readings on these ordinances, some of which were adopted, some of which were continued for this evening. In addition to these meetings, Fair Share Housing Center issued 3 sets of comments on the draft ordinances during the ordinance preparation process. These comments were supportive of the city to incentivize affordable housing and included constructive criticisms relating to several ordinances in an attempt to make the provisions even stronger. The ordinances for consideration in April this year have addressed nearly all of Fair Share's comments. It is important to note that the adoption of the ordinances at this time during the public health crisis remain important and has been advanced at the strong request of the Affordable Housing Coalition and Fair Share Housing Center. And I say that because there's currently a large need for affordable housing in the city of Asbury Park and the surrounding region, with Monmouth County affordable housing obligation alone. Additionally, development activity interest remains strong in Asbury Park, even during the public health crisis. Applications for development in the city and around the state continue to be submitted and continue to receive approvals. Even more so, the city is legally obligated to review these projects without delay, and any development application that is filed before the affordable housing ordinances are adopted are not required to provide affordable housing. And in response to the public health crisis, New Jersey legislature adopted Public Law 2020, Chapter 11, also known as Assembly Bill 3850, on March 20th this year. That law states, during the period that the declared state of emergency and public health emergency, a public body shall be permitted to conduct public meetings related to any matters of public business by means of communication or any electronic or other electronic equipment, and that such meetings shall not be deemed to violate the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Therefore, the fact that this evening's meeting is being held by telephonic means of communication is consistent with that law, as well as the principles and requirements set forth in Governor Murphy's executive orders, which mandate social mitigation strategies for combating COVID-19. Of course, that also applies to the previous meeting in the month. The public health crisis has caused many to lose their jobs and is likely to have negative economic repercussions in the state. It is critical that we lay the foundation, i.e. the incentive, for affordable housing at this time to ensure that the city does all it can to mitigate the impact on its citizens and those from the region. As a result, failing to adopt the ordinances at this time could result in lost opportunities to create affordable housing in the city, and therefore lost opportunities to ensure that housing is affordable to families with low and moderate incomes, is available for city residents who experience displacement, employees of city businesses, and those with its constitutional obligation to provide affordable housing for city residents as well as residents from the surrounding region as we move forward. Although the city does not have a current affordable housing obligation, I can state with certainty that the city will have an affordable housing obligation related to the next round. It is better to proactively plan to address that obligation now rather than to delay and potentially lose opportunities to capture affordable housing units now that will ensure the city always remains in compliance with its constitutional obligation. And so I hope that statement provides a little clarity to city professionals, council members, and the public.
Thank you, Beth. We will now move on to second reading, public hearing. We have Ordinance 2020-12, an ordinance amending the land development regulations of the City of Asbury Park to amend Article 8 Redevelopment Plan, Section 30-110.2, Main Street Redevelopment Plan, consistent and designed to effectuate the city's adopted 2019 third round housing element and fair share plan. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on Ordinance 2020-12? Please remember to identify yourself.
This is Fred Raffetto, City Attorney. Before we move the ordinance forward for the public hearing, my recollection from the last meeting is that before we opened each of those ordinances up to a public hearing, that Beth provided a very quick summary comment about each of the ordinances before they were open to the public. So Beth, if I could trouble you, would you mind giving a brief synopsis of the Main Street Ordinance, Ordinance 2020-12, before we open up to public?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Hold, Beth, hold on 1 second, please. This is more, when you were making your past statement, maybe it was just my phone, somebody out there can correct me, you were coming in and out as much as this opening introduction and then questions coming up. You're going to be key. So if we have a problem with your phone, we got to correct it now.
Oh, okay.
Did anybody else hear her coming in and out?
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Hey, Beth, what I would recommend is maybe just give this overview and then maybe try calling in on your cell phone. That might be a little clearer.
Yeah, was the audio so bad that you'd like me to reread the statement?
Not at all.
Okay, I will, let me give an overview. When you're ready, I'll give an overview of this first ordinance and then disconnect from the meeting and call back.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. This first ordinance addresses the Main Street redevelopment plan. As such, this is an existing redevelopment plan that is proposed for amendment through this ordinance. The amendment proposes to increase building heights by 1 story in a variety of the sub areas located within the Main Street redevelopment plan, which I should also specify that is, as named, is located along both sides of Main Street. The redevelopment plan breaks up the Main Street corridor into several subzones. All of these are proposed for 1 story of increased building height to a maximum of 5 stories, with the exception of the Civic Core or South Gateway area, which is composed of the municipal complex property. That building height of 8 stories will remain unchanged in this ordinance. The increased building height is the incentive for the creation of affordable housing, which is now required at a set aside of 20%, again, with the exception of the municipal complex area, the Civic Core / South Gateway area. That area, which is owned by the City of Asbury Park, shall have a 25% set aside. So all locations that are controlled by private entities will have the typical 20% set aside. It is only the municipal property that has a 25% set aside. In addition, this amendment also creates that same incentive for middle-income housing that we had discussed at the last hearing, where it states that the additional density of 5 units per acre shall be granted, where 8% of the units are reserved for middle-income housing, in addition to the 20% affordable housing. In addition to the building height that is given as an incentive for the creation of affordable housing, this ordinance also eliminates the parking requirement for low and for the affordable and the middle-income housing units only, not the market rate housing. And in addition, the ordinance also simply requires that the affordable housing units meet the applicable standards for affordable units in the state of New Jersey, like all of the city's proposed and now adopted affordable housing ordinances do. And so that's a brief overview of this first ordinance up for public hearing this evening.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-12? Please remember to identify yourself.
Yvonne
Move
Clayton,
it.
move to open.
Okay. Okay, I
Kendall,
have
second.
Councilmember Clayton with the move, Councilmember Clayton, Kendall with the second. Now, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Meeting open to the public. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When you are called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record, and your comments or questions can only be about the public hearing on the ordinance being presented for public hearing. I'm calling on Ernest McNolly. Please state your name and address for the record.
Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Mr. McNolly, can I interrupt you for 1 second, please? Before you start,
Are you taking my time?
there is no time limit, sir, and you're well aware.
Oh,
of
okay.
that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm asking you, please, let's wait to make sure Ms. McManus is back on the phone.
Let's make sure who's on the phone?
Beth
Ms.
McManus.
McManus, the city's affordable housing planner.
Oh, okay. Is there any chance you can exclude Mr. Raffredo?
No.
Oh, okay, Mr. Raffredo. All right, when do we start?
When we tell you Ms. McManus is back on the call, so if you have questions to her, they are heard.
You know, last week I heard some people fell asleep.
Mr. Manzel, is Ms. McManus back on the phone?
I don't
Hear me?
yet.
Hi there, this is Beth McManus. I'm here.
Okay, you're back
Okay,
on.
that's
back.
fine.
Mr.
Okay.
McNolly, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Ms. McManus, I understand that the 8-story from, I guess it would be from Lake Street to, what would that be to? How far north? Madison? No, it goes beyond Madison.
Well, first, let me be clear, just to make sure everybody is understanding that the 8 stories is an existing condition. It is not a.
I'm aware of that.
Not a
I'm aware of
proposed change. Okay.
I'm-
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I'm just asking you from where to where, that's all. I'm
Okay, yeah,
very
give me one-
aware of, I listened to every single word you said, so you don't have to repeat it to me. I'm just asking you, from Lake, headed north on Main, to where is the existing 8-story, which we're not talking about tonight.
Right. It is between Summerfield Avenue and the southern border, southern boundary of Asbury Park. So to
Okay.
the lake, essentially.
Now, would that include the YMCA building? The old YMCA building on Main?
I'm not sure. I don't want to be incorrect about that. I'm not 100% positive.
Oh, well, you're familiar with Asbury, right? You're very
This is
familiar with
Michelle
Main Street.
Alonso. This is Michelle Alonso. It does not include the YMCA building.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So then we're talking about Summerfield north on both sides, which you're talking about an existing, I guess, part of the, I don't know if it was from the redevelopment or wherever it is, but right now it states 4-story buildings, and this ordinance, if approved, is asking to increase that to 5 stories, and the justification for that is to say, because we want to have more affordable housing. Is that I guess, a layman's summary that's not too bad?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Okay.
We have
So
to
now
give
my
an
question is,
incentive in order to get the affordable housing.
okay, good. Why couldn't you do it at 5 stories or 4 stories? Why does it always have to be 3 or 4 or 5 more stories to accommodate affordable housing? Why can't it be with what exists? And I'm going to answer that for you, because it doesn't fit It doesn't fit the financial profit of the developers. You have to increase density. You have to waive parking, which is going to exacerbate the problems in Asbury terribly with parking, the way it's set up. But you know what? The eloquence of your presentations, of the lawyers dedicated to put this over on the people of Asbury, is like nothing I've ever seen. And I've lived in this area almost 72 years. The only thing I recognize in this process is the city attorney firm that's Long Branch and Asbury still. And
Mr. McNulty, please stick to the order.
I am Mr. Alfredo, but I'm talking about your law firm. Because I don't agree.
My law firm
and here's
has
why.
nothing to do with the ordinance.
Oh, it's got
Please
everything to
comment
do with
the
it,
ordinance.
Mr. Alfredo. I think you're very conflicted, your law firm. I don't like seeing all the pictures on Facebook
Mr.
of
McNulty,
parties
if you
and...
continue in this manner, you will be muted and we will move on to the next speaker. Please
who
restrict
is
your comments to the ordinance.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say to you, Ms. Planner, is that I think that this is a totally conflicted thing between all factions of the city and the developers, and here's why. In other words, I hear people call up and they're talking about anti-president and all this stuff. Does everybody realize all the freeholders are Republicans? The sheriff is Republican. The prosecutor is Republican.
Mr. McNolly.
And now you say, well, why does it relate to this?
No. You're going to stay on the ordinance, or else I'm going to have you muted. And then if you're nice and behave, you can come back on. But you're not going to bring in personalities, Republicans, Democrats, anything that has nothing to do with this ordinance. Freeholders, the law firms, your personal gripes are not either statements about the ordinance or questions about the ordinance. But please keep all other personality complaints of yours out of the conversation, or else you will be muted.
So now we're back to 4-story to 5-story, and in exchange for that, the developer is going to get more units, right? And I'm assuming the 80% of units that will be created will be market value, which, by the way, are priced out of most people in Asbury's range. So it almost begs the question, could this ordinance be flipped to include 5 stories with 80% affordable and 20% market? It's just a yes or no question. Okay.
No, that's
all right,
not an
all.
option.
All right. I don't want to get anybody flustered. So the answer is no. So in other words, what we're going to see through these ordinances is that the relaxing of parking for, I believe you said middle, low, and affordable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, low, moderate,
right.
middle.
Low, moderate, middle are going to be relaxed or removed, which means all those cars, all those homes, right, are going to somehow, it doesn't matter how many cars they have. And here's what I don't understand. Well, how then do you, I don't know what word to use. I don't want to offend anybody, but how do you then say to the market value people, right? But you are going to come under the restriction. I don't know. Is that, I don't know what the word is. Wouldn't that violate the rights of the market value people?
I don't think
I'm not sure.
it's a question for me. I don't understand the question.
Mayor, do me a favor. Don't cut me off. This is about the ordinance. What I'm asking is, when you relax the parking on the affordable, which, me personally, I think that's a great thing. But what if I was one of the market value and some of these are condos or rentals or whatever they're going to be, and I say, well, wait a minute. I'm renting at market value, whatever, $3,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. I have 4 cars, and I can't bring them near my home. I would feel like, wait a minute, why'd you do that? So, I don't know. Can you just respond to that? What the rationale is?
I can jump in, Mr. McNolly. It's a legitimate.
Who's that? Wait a minute. Who's that, Mr. Fredo?
Fredo, the city attorney. And
I swear, wherever I go, you follow me.
It's a legitimate incentive for the creation of affordable housing. and it is a legal measure.
That's all you're going to say?
Yes, it's
Mr.
an incentive.
McNolly.
It incentivizes
Well, no,
the-
I was asking the planner, not Mr. Alfredo.
It's been asked and answered.
What's the answer? Who was that, Ms. Quinn?
This is Fred Raffetto. Once again, I answered your question. Do you have any further questions or comments about the ordinance? Otherwise, we will move on to the next speaker.
Yeah, I do. So then you're going to allow, and I'm talking to the planner now, you're going to allow 5-story, and the split is going to be 80-20, 80 market, 20 other, and parking is going to be waived for the 20 other. And now I'm going to ask you a question specifically about this. Will this allow the developers, because of this, to ask for pilot status or tax abatement status? And I know the public knows that buildings in Asbury that have pilot status, like the Ocean Club, they don't pay any school tax. And when they get tax abatements, it's sometimes for 25 or 30 years. And that shifts all the burden back onto those one-family homes and people renting in Asbury, because then the landlords have to increase their rents. So that's my question.
Once again, this is the city attorney. The within ordinance has nothing to do with a pilot, and you're getting off topic.
Well, wait a minute. Aren't you talking about approving a whole tract of land from Summerfield down to the lake? And
There are development regulations in this ordinance regarding the Main Street redevelopment area. This is not about a pilot.
You're not allowed to tell me.
Pilots are off topic.
Well, wait a minute. It's off topic. In other words, how are you going to finance this and maybe shift the burden onto the taxpayers? I'm not allowed to ask that question. No, of course. You'll cut me off now, right, Mr. Alfredo?
No, if anybody cuts you off, it'll be Mr. Moore, and I agree.
You mean Mayor Moore? Mayor Moore. Mayor Moore.
Okay, Mayor Moore, thank you. And I agree with Mr. Raffetto. This has nothing to do with pilots. That would be a decision way down the road. It has nothing to do with this ordinance. So please stay on the ordinance, or yes, we will mute you.
A pilot would be the subject of a separate matter. That would
Mr. Raffetto, he said it's
council
over. We're moving on, Mr.
specific
Raffetto.
project.
You know, you're off the topic now, Mr. Raffetto. So, all right, so then you can't answer about the tax. You answered about the parking. You answered about the 5th floor. Were there density studies? And that's about the ordinance, right? Were there? Oh, no, this is on a state highway, if I'm not correct. Isn't it on number 71?
There are no supplemental density studies that were done in conjunction with this ordinance.
Okay, I appreciate that. Simple question, simple answer. Were any done as to traffic? In other words, what do they call that? The RT? You know, well, you have to submit. What effect is,
there were no
you mean in
supplemental
general,
traffic
there's no,
studies done.
okay. There were no studies done. Is that your answer? There's none?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Let me be clear. There were no supplemental
all right.
density or traffic studies done.
Okay, so now I'm trying to stay right on topic, and I just want to ask you a direct question.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You're going to vote to approve something that you have no studies that's going to greatly impact everybody in this, what is it, a 1.2 mile town, city? And it's all going to be done, voted on by people that, well, I don't want to say this because you'll cut me off, but I was going to say this conflict, but I won't say it. But there's no studies. That's your answer. I think you said that. There's no studies.
It's already been asked and answered, Mr. McNolly.
Who's that, Mr. Alfredo?
Thank you for the
Otherwise,
comment.
we are going to move on to the next speaker.
I'm now moving on to 6295. 6295, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Randy Moore, 321 Sunset Ave in Asbury. I am so sorry. I tried to call it buzz in the beginning, but my hand raising did not work. So this is on topic for this specific ordinance, but it applies to all of them in general. So first, I just wanted to thank the Mayor and Council for passing the ordinances on April 22nd and express my support for this ordinance and all the others that are remaining on the agenda today, especially in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis we're facing. I echo many of the comments and everything shared by all the other members of the Affordable Housing Coalition and BASAM as well. And I just wanted to add that I've worked in the affordable housing and homeless arena in New Jersey for about 15 years.
Okay. So I'm going to have to interrupt you again. I appreciate it. That should have been done. I know you couldn't get in. I apologize for that. But your comments or questions have to stay on this one ordinance.
Yes. So specifically to this ordinance, I think that it's incredibly important that we add additional affordable housing within Asbury Park. And I think it's important that we do it now. We know that, especially because of COVID-19, people are going to face housing challenges, and just for the short term, but in the long term, we need much more affordable housing. We're way behind. I don't think adding an additional floor is going to cause any major concerns on Main Street. And I think ensuring that we do have those units, I think people were going to develop these buildings to begin with, and adding an additional floor will allow for additional units that will be affordable. Otherwise, they would not have been any affordable units whatsoever. So thank you very much to the council for doing this. For the rest of the ordinances, I will not speak, and I will keep it at that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Now moving on to 5124. 5124, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Rita Morano, 8th Avenue. I wasn't going to call in, but I happen to be a very simple person. I like simple answers. Why are we adding floors to buildings that we already have? I thought we reached our number for affordable units. I believe we have over 500, isn't that correct? That we have already 500 and something units? Why are we building on top of buildings? And by the way, for that lady that doesn't know, there's something called the ripple effect. You build more people on Sewell Avenue, and it goes down to 8th or 9th, or not 9th Avenue, but Deer Lake Drive. That's called the ripple effect. It's the same way when you build at the beachfront. You keep building. It's the ripple effect. Everybody gets it. It affects everybody. And I don't approve of this. When I had to lose my property, the eminent domain, nobody told me about air rights. I could have got more money. If I thought I could build up, I would have sued for more money. But nobody ever talked about air rights then. Now, all of a sudden, they're building on top of buildings. That's wrong. There's no parking. Go over to any one of the projects where you have low income. Everybody has a car today. Everybody, whether it's new or old. So that means that Main Street's going to be packed with cars. That's not good. That's absolutely not good. And somebody ought to look at those Bradley restrictions, because he's probably turning in his grave. He built the most beautiful city in the world, and then it's getting corrupted now with more buildings on Main Street, more floors on Deer Lake Drive. It's not right. It's not proper. And I know you're going to pass it, but you know what? The other night, there was all those people were against it. There wasn't one person for it, and you passed it. You ought to think about what you're doing. I know you're trying hard, but it's wrong. And I think a survey should be done to see what Main Street's about. How are you going to put more floors on these buildings? You already let one house, it's on Sewell, on the corner of Sewell, they put another floor up. More people. How many more people are you going to jam into a town? And plus the fact, I think it should be publicized that we have met our affordable house number. Did we not? To the representative that's representing us tonight, did we not meet that? Could you answer that?
I don't think I directly answered that, but I can do so now. The city has met its, the city does not have an affordable housing obligation that this ordinance or the other ordinances for consideration this evening are intended to satisfy. Instead, the purpose of these ordinances, as stated in the city's master plan documents, is to ensure that the city is and continues to be inclusive for households of all incomes, not just those that can afford market rate houses, but also those of low, moderate, and middle income housing.
I know that. I know all of that. Do other towns do this, or is it just Asbury Park? I mean,
No,
you
there-
talk. I don't know these expressions that you have in these ordinances. UHAC.NJ.30. How does anybody, a layperson like me, understand all that? I've been trying to read these ordinances. They're not simple. They're pages and pages and pages. It's unbelievable. I don't mind what you're doing. It's just the way you're doing it, the manner. The one ordinance has about 20 pages.
Okay,
You think
Rita.
Yeah, but I mean,
Rita.
like, you gotta simplify this.
Rita.
Yes.
I'm gonna cut you off for a second and ask that your questions be specific to this ordinance, your comments specific to this ordinance. When I talked
Okay.
to you, I said if you have any questions, because I agree with you, some of the wording is tough, and I had to do the same thing, and I gave you Michelle Alonso's phone number and said, if you don't
I
understand
did call
anything-
her. I did call her. She never calls me back. Sorry, I've got to say it publicly. That woman
well, then-
never calls anybody back.
Okay, we're straying from the ordinance. I apologize for that.
Mhm.
But keep your questions just to this one
Okay.
ordinance. to this- Okay.
So this is to permit on Main Street, or whatever streets they were, Summerfield, to
It's for the
exceed
entirety.
the
I'm
apartments,
sorry.
right?
Can I just, I
What?
just want to correct you. The ordinance applies to essentially all of the Main Street corridor. It's not just the area along Summerfield. It applies to the entire Main Street redevelopment area. There are
So that
different
means all the way
provisions
down
throughout
to the bridge, right?
Yes, it's generally end to end down Main Street in Asbury Park.
Now, that's what I thought, because when they said Summerfield, I didn't think it was just there. There's nothing there now. I mean, like, there is, but to go up. You got to remember, now you're making Main Street, it's going to be 2 lanes. That's even going to make it more difficult for parking. So, I mean, like, when you're thinking about this ordinance, I don't think you should raise any more buildings in Asbury Park. That's my opinion. And I know, and it's about this ordinance, and it's not a good idea. You ought to rethink this one. And it's not too late to rethink it, I don't think. By the way, how come we have to, in one of the ordinances, I think it's this one, where we have to report back every 3 years to somebody about our affordable housing? I mean, that's getting...
Ms.
That's a
Moreno,
different ordinance.
Fred Raffetto, City Attorney. Again, can you please restrict your comments to this particular ordinance dealing with Main Street?
Well, that's
Thank
all
you.
I have to say. That's all. I mean, I'm totally against it, a building on Main Street or any other street that has a house and you can build on top of it. No way. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Now, moving on to 1133. 1133, please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, Felicia Simmons, Sewell Avenue, Asbury Park. With the specific ordinance about the abatement of parking for the affordable. That's part of my issue I had with it, is that the 20, say if you build 100, the 20 that are affordable, right, in this thing don't have parking spaces. So that alienates them, and it exposes them to be affordable off the top. And isn't some of the writing under the regulations saying that there shouldn't be any difference between the two? So I just also wanted to, speak about, is it the abatement of parking, isn't that optional at the time of is it optional at the time of the permit for Main Street area? So can you say, well, if you're going up, then you go up, you don't get up and an apartment, and no parking? Or is it, you get no parking? Can you just explain that piece on the
Sure.
Main Street corner for me?
The redevelopment plan amendment eliminates the parking requirement for affordable units. It's not an if-then scenario where if they utilize the additional height, then the parking is eliminated. It's simply, if you create affordable housing within the Main Street redevelopment area, you are not required to provide parking for those units. I will also say that it is, just for clarity, this is an option for the developer. Should the developer find that he needs to provide parking for the unit, he or she certainly has the ability to do so, but the redevelopment plan does not obligate them, does not require them to do so.
One more time, they don't require them not to put up parking, but if they want to put up parking. But my question is, if they go up height, right? Do they get height and parking, or they just get parking?
They are not required to provide parking for affordable units. Let me start over. If the city council adopts this ordinance, affordable housing units are not required to be provided parking. It is not dependent upon the height of the building.
Okay, because that's slightly different than before. So so I know there's a compensatory, or we have to give to get, as in some of the other meetings, right? But isn't that the get? So do we have to give height too?
Yes. So what we've done, So what we've done here is we've created a compensatory benefit, or this incentive. That's the layman's term for compensatory benefit. We've created an incentive for the creation of affordable housing, and we've done so using two strategies here. We've done so by, one, granting one additional building story, one additional floor to the buildings, and two, by eliminating the parking for affordable units.
Okay, and in this specific zone or throughout all of the affordable units in the city?
This only applies to Main Street, the Main Street redevelopment area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I am now calling on Ernest McNolly.
Yeah,
Mr.
hi. For the
McNolly,
planner, I have two questions. In other words, when you raise and go up to 5 floors, and then the time comes to split the 80-20 affordable versus market, right? Is it customary that affordable are always the ground floor, or do they ever get the penthouse units?
It is customary that the developer integrates the affordable units throughout the building. So there's no customary ground floor affordable units. In fact, that's something that customarily is avoided in New Jersey municipalities.
So about this ordinance, are there examples of affordable housing 80-20 split where there are affordables in the penthouse, the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, or is it like on Memorial where some people are eating in their dining room with diesel trucks riding by 3 feet away? I mean, why? Is there a provision to make sure, and believe me, I am a proponent. I love affordable housing for people, but I also think they should get some of the choice units. And what I'm asking is, are there any provisions to this? Or that's
I can answer this question.
Who is that?
Let me answer this question for you, Mr. McNolly.
You know, they let Myra.
Let me answer this question. The ordinance, the Main Street redevelopment plan ordinance, does not speak to the integration of affordable units within the building. It does not state, for example, that all affordable units shall not be located on the ground floor, or that units shall be located on every floor. None of the city's inclusionary housing ordinances address the integration of affordable units throughout the building. And that was done specifically because one of the other ordinances up for public hearing this evening, the Affordable Housing Regulating Ordinance, does so. And so by having that regulating ordinance, for which we will have a public hearing on later this evening, because it's expected that the city will adopt that ordinance or some version of it, that type of specificity such as integration of units throughout a building does not need to be addressed within the inclusionary zoning ordinances.
I don't know. That's kind of a very convoluted answer, but I'm just asking a simple question. Tonight on this ordinance, right, forgetting the other ordinances because we're supposed to talk about this ordinance, will this ordinance on those fifth floor buildings with air rights, if a developer builds on that 80-20 model, someone brought up about, well, anyone who doesn't have a parking space, they're going to feel like, oh, I'm known as a low income. Now you're saying, well, no, they're going to be integrated. And I asked you a simple question. Does that mean that they're going to get some penthouse units?
The ordinance is
This is Amy, and this has been asked and answered?
Correct.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it has.
Been, Mr. McNolly.
No, it hasn't.
Planner provided an answer to your question. We're beating a dead
Okay,
horse.
they all jump in. You can't answer a simple question. With 7 lawyers.
The question's been answered.
Manzello, the question was asked and answered. Mr. McNolly wants to debate it, so please mute him.
Okay, not seeing any other hands raised. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on 2020-12?
Quinn, move it.
Move to close, Eileen Chapman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? The public hearing is now closed on 2020-12. Are there any questions or comments before we move to the roll call on 2020-12?
I'm just going to provide a minute of guidance on why we did height and parking here. Main Street actually had height, had some height that wasn't already being utilized. And Beth, you correct me if I say anything wrong, please. But the idea was height was already not being utilized on Main Street. And that's why we added the, for lack of a better word, the carrot of parking, right? To not have to provide a parking spot for the affordable units, we hope is an incentive to whoever decides to build on Main to do the affordable housing units that, we so desperately want to see in Asbury Park. Did I say anything incorrect, Beth?
I don't think so.
Okay. Not hearing any additional comments, the motion to adopt 2020-12. Please identify yourself.
Quinn, move to adopt.
Yvonne, second.
Second. Okay, we will now move on to the roll call. Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Okay, we are on to Ordinance 2020-13. And Beth will give a brief overview. Is Beth available to give a brief overview of 2020-13?
I would be if I took my phone off mute. I'm sorry. Here I am. Okay. So as I had started to say, this particular ordinance creates a new zoning district in the city referred to as the B district. B as in business. But more specifically, what it does is it combines existing zoning districts, the B2 and the NC districts, into one new zone referred to as the B district. It does not change the boundaries of these zones. It simply renames them into one zoning district called the B district. In addition to simply renaming the zones to this new name, it also updates the permitted uses to provide a variety of modern or updated uses that I can go through in a bit more detail. It includes things that were, let me be clear, this ordinance actually implements recommendations from not only the housing plan, but also the city's reexamination report. And the reexamination report is most relevant in the updating of these uses. So for example, it adds new uses such as art galleries, artist live work studios, updates it to include health, fitness clubs, medical offices, medical offices, etc. It also permits stores and shops for the conduct of retail trade and retail services, and then eliminates other uses that are duplicative. For example, it eliminates pharmacies as a specifically permitted use because it is now permitted under the umbrella of retail trade and services. In addition to updating the permitted uses, it also permits residential uses at a density of 40 units an acre. It increases the building height from 3 to 4 stories. And then, of course, it includes a variety of affordable housing standards, such as the typical 20% set aside of low and moderate income housing, and that same incentive for middle income housing, which grants an additional density of 5 units an acre in exchange for 8% middle income housing. And lastly, the ordinance provides improved building and site design standards, which are intended to ensure that buildings are created in an aesthetically pleasing manner, and that the site design is done in an aesthetically pleasing manner as well, such as requiring that parking not be located between a building and a public street. So essentially requires that parking be located behind or to the side of a building. And speaking of parking, this ordinance also includes the exemption from parking requirements for low and moderate income housing. Additionally, there is a provision that is struck in the city's ordinance that was relevant to density. It previously constrained the density to only 4 units per property, which had a significant limitation on the mixed use capacity or ability for developers and property owners to do mixed use on a property, and instead refers to a more typical density requirements. And with that, I think that's a quick overview of it, but I'm always here for questions.
Thank you, Beth. Let me read the title of 2020-13. Is it ordinance amending the land development regulations of the City of Asbury Park to amend Chapter 6 zoning, Section 30-71.3, B1 Downtown Retail District, Section 30-71.4, districts to consolidate zone districts, amend permitted uses, incentivize the creation of the inclusionary housing consistent with and designed to effectuate the city's adopted 2019 third round housing element and fair share plan. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on 2020-13?
Kendall, move it.
Quinn, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? The public hearing is now open on 2020-13. All members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand. When you're in the Zoom meeting, I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. When it's your turn to participate, you will be called upon. You will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Your comments or questions can only be about the public hearing on the ordinance being presented for the public hearing. I am calling on Felicia Simmons.
Okay, I thought there would be a line. Felicia Simmons, Sewell Avenue, Asbury Park. My question on this ordinance is really confirming is some of the things that were deleted from this ordinance, right, were social gatherings, lounges, nightclubs. On that street of specifically Asbury Avenue, there's one that's it burnt down. It's called the Else Club. And it burnt down and but it's owned by a bunch of elderly military people. So they're rebuilding it slowly. And they've been it's for a while. But when they're finished, they can't even open unless they're permitted a grandfathered in since they're already there. I don't see how that's fair for the development of the other side of town, specifically the west side of town. Right, we have a cluster of nightclubs, bars, and other things clustered throughout the city of, down on the Cookman Avenue side in that area in the beachfront. But there's traditionally in this town, it's been throughout the town, the nightclubs, the lounges, the things that's happened on that specific street is history making. So to say now that we take it out and then say, well, we're going to take this out, but we're going to give a couple more housing, it's going to gut the character and the history and the possibilities of that area. So I'm curious on why would that specific thing will be put in, knowing that it's history, be taken out?
So Felicia, I think what you're referring to are the prohibition of, if I heard you correctly, social clubs, nightclubs, and cabarets. And so these are prohibited uses in the B district. And I have to say that these are existing prohibited uses in the, and I'm sorry, I'm looking right now, I don't recall off the top of my head. They are existing prohibited uses in the B1 district and may also be in the NC district as well. So although they are subject to this new ordinance, that is not a policy change that the city has proposed as part of this ordinance. And also let me say they are also existing prohibited uses in the NC district. I've just been able to confirm that.
Yes, and specific to this, because when you rename it and you reclaim it, and just why you have to reintroduce the different components, it becomes a new thing. So I'm asking the council, and also because they might not have been aware of the old prohibitions, why would you, once it's exposed, you can see it now, why would you you can take it out or add it in, right? Why would you reintroduce for the council in this ordinance?
Well, this is Michelle Alonso. Let me explain. I think there's confusion more about of this. This is, again, as Beth has said, this is not a change. We kept all the same zoning in the B districts that was there before. So I think a lot of people are unaware that social clubs and nightclubs were already zoned out. And again, this does not affect the lodge on Asbury Avenue because they are grandfathered as they were before and they can continue. It will not affect them. But the city is also currently doing a much more global zoning amendments that were also part of the master plan reexamination recommendations. And that is a good opportunity at that time, if the council so wishes, to reintroduce social clubs as a use in the B district. That is the time for them to examine it then. But we tried not to make overarching changes to zoning that were not related to affordable in this round of zoning amendments.
That answers my question, and thank you.
Okay, I am now calling on Ernest McNolly.
Sorry, Felicia, thank you.
Hi, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey, also known as the Santander. So just to be specific where we're talking about here, you're talking about renaming, what is it, NC and B1? What does NC stand for?
The NC district stands for the Neighborhood Commercial District.
Okay, and what does B1 mean?
Business one.
Okay. So when you started out, you said the main purpose of this is just to rename it, but then you went down.
If I said the main purpose was to rename it, I misspoke.
Okay.
It's one of the. It's certainly one of the things that has occurred through this ordinance, but the main purpose is to promote affordable housing into modernize the zone district.
All right. And Ms. Planner, for somebody like me who's in Asbury every day, can you please just tell me exactly where we're talking about? Are we talking about Asbury Avenue or where?
Yeah, let me go through this. The district, the new B district, meaning the existing B1 and NC districts, apply to about 50% of Asbury Avenue, and that's just me eyeing the zoning map. It's generally I would say the commercial lots along Asbury Avenue are located within what would be the new B district. Additionally, it includes portions of the northern portions of Memorial Drive from Sunset down to, let me find this, from Sunset down to, is that Third? I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble reading my zoning map.
Where, to Asbury Avenue, maybe?
Yeah, to Third. No. It's from approximately Sunset down to Third. And then it also includes a small area near the intersection of Springwood and Prospect. And then there are a few scattered B district lots just east of the Main Street redevelopment area, which means they're about a half a block east of Main Street. And they're just a few scattered properties here and there that it simply didn't get covered by the Main Street redevelopment area.
Right. And of course, the council is going to vote on this tonight. And I don't know how many of the 15,000 residents here even know what you're talking about. I mean, I haven't seen a model. We can't see even a colored version up on a screen like we would normally. But it sounds like there's just a lot of bits and pieces you're trying to reconnect, rename, and then it sounds like you're introducing a few zoning changes, which would be another story. And it seems like you're going to keep the rule out of, I guess, bars, clubs, and lounges, which leads to my question. Why would you do that? In other words, bars, clubs, and lounges.
Mr. McNolly, that question was already answered. It was part of the prior speaker's question, and Ms. McManus has already answered that question.
To who? What was the answer? What did I miss?
The city is making no changes. Those uses were previously prohibited, and there is no change there. And Ms. Alonso commented that that is something that the city can consider as part of a more global process, but we've already answered that question.
Okay. I guess that's how we got Dark City Brewery. But anyway, so in other words, so we're back to somehow you're going to integrate into this. And I think the deputy mayor referred to carrots. Like every time there's an ordinance, there's a carrot. And the carrot here is you're going to increase the height and you're going to ask that it be more affordable at that 80-20 split, correct? And it's going to be integrated with the existing new connection of, I guess, B and N into one new one, which seems like it's going to be now all integrated with the fact that you can go up, what, from 3 to 4 stories, you said?
Yes.
As long as you have that 80-20 split?
No, the height is a simple change to the ordinance. You do not have to provide affordable housing in order to access that 4th story.
Oh, okay. So unlike some of the, well, let's stick with this one. This one, regardless of adding the story, has no requirement for affordable housing, and that would stand to reason, they'd need no parking exceptions, because there are none.
I think I misunderstood your question. The ordinance does require affordable housing.
It does. Wait a minute. And what percent? 2080 again?
The ordinance requires a 20% set aside of affordable housing.
In this new combined district, and those little pieces that are not contiguous.
Correct.
Okay. So along with that, you're saying if it's passed, we'll have 20-80 split like everything else we're talking about in exchange for, as the deputy mayor called it, a carrot. The carrot is you can go up another story, increase density, and the 20%, which we don't know where it's going to be located yet, of affordable is going to be exempt from parking. Am I doing okay?
Yeah.
Is that pretty correct?
That's pretty correct.
Okay. So then it's not just the name change, it's some major configuration changes and the connecting of not connected pieces, and it's going to continue with the rule. Okay, I'm not going to repeat it because Mr. Raffredo will jump on. There'll be no bars and clubs there, which I
There's no-
think is discriminatory, because why should people have to go from over there all the way over to Cookman to have a drink? Why not let them do it there too? It'll only be fair, right? If you're creating communities, why make everybody walk to the boardwalk and to Cookman Avenue?
I think
All right,
this has
I'm
been
done.
asked
I'm
and
done.
answered.
You don't have to
Yep.
cut me off. Goodbye.
Okay,
Goodbye.
great.
Okay, Mr.
Not seeing
McNulty.
any,
Well, hold on. Mr. McNulty, are you still there? No? Okay.
It's been, yes.
Okay, it's been muted. Well, he can still hear me. I just want to correct him on one thing. He can correct me when he comes back on the next one, which I know he will. I believe he owns a unit, the Santander. I believe he was sent a registered letter. I believe he signed for it and picked it up. And in that registered letter is a colored map with all the zones. For him to say he didn't even see these zones before, I don't believe to be the truth, unless somebody signed his name and picked up his letter. Thank you.
not seeing any other hands raised. A motion to close the public hearing on 2020-13. Please identify yourself.
Quinn, move to
Motion
close.
to close, Kendall.
Eileen Chapman?
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The public hearing is now closed on 2020-13. Are there any questions or comments before we move to roll call? Not hearing any. A motion to adopt 2020-13.
Move to adopt, Quinn.
Second, Yvonne Clayton.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted. We're now on to 2020-14, which is an ordinance of the City of Asbury Park, the County of Monmouth, the State of New Jersey, adding Chapter 31, Affordable Housing, to the Code of the City of Asbury Park to address the requirements of the New Jersey Superior Court. Beth, can you give us a brief overview on this?
Sure. So this ordinance, unlike all of the others considered this evening, addresses not where affordable housing will be located in the city, what zones it will be located in. Instead, this ordinance addresses how those units will be regulated. So, for example, it includes the distribution of very low, low, and moderate income units, meaning it requires that 50% of the units be very low or low income, and the remaining 50% may be moderate income. It addresses the distribution of bedrooms in the affordable units. There are requirements that state affordable units may have a maximum number of 1-bedroom units and must have a minimum number of 2- and 3-bedroom units. This ordinance addresses that. It also puts standards in place that sets forth how the affordable units shall be marketed to the region. There are strict standards for how developers are required to advertise affordable units. And so this ordinance addresses that. It also addresses the phasing of units, making sure that developers build the affordable units at the same time as the market rate units so that we don't leave all the affordable units for last in a project. And it regulates the maximum income, the rents, and the sales prices of the affordable units to ensure that those units intended to be affordable in the project actually are affordable to the intended households. It also, as was discussed a bit this evening, requires integration of affordable units throughout a project. It does not permit, for example, all of the affordable units to be on the ground floor. And then lastly, the ordinance also addresses monitoring and tracking of affordable units. This means that the city's affordable housing units created through these ordinances will be monitored to report to Fair Share Housing Center and report to itself for its own monitoring purposes, the number of units created, the number of low-income units, moderate income units, the number of bedrooms in each unit, and so forth, to further ensure that the units that are created are indeed done so in a manner that meets the state standards. And so again, I want to be clear,
This ordinance does not discuss the placement of affordable housing zones in the city. It just simply addresses the affordable units that are created in the city. Are you finished, Beth?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Beth.
Yes. Yep.
Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-14?
Move to open, Eileen Chapman.
Second, Yvonne Clayton.
All in favor?
Aye.
None
Aye.
opposed? The public hearing is now open on ordinance 2020-14. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When you are called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record, and your comments or questions can only be about the public hearing on the ordinance being presented. I am calling upon Felicia Simmons.
I'm always first. It's odd for a woman with the name S. I'm usually at the last of the list. My question on this ordinance is just important that in this ordinance we did take out the phasing in or the component of the medium income, correct? In this specific ordinance.
So this ordinance, I think what you're asking about is there was a provision that has been talked about between the city and Fair Share Housing Center and the Affordable Housing Coalition addressing middle income housing units and whether or not that would be phased in. And just for the public and for the council's purposes, let me just give a little background. As I'd referenced in the ordinance overview, this ordinance requires a certain phasing schedule, meaning that the affordable units have to be built essentially in conjunction with or at the same time of the market rate unit. The purpose of it is to make sure that a developer, say, and this is the worst case scenario, if he's building a 100-unit project, 80 of them are market rate, 20 of them are affordable. What we need to avoid is a developer building all 80 units and then deciding to stop, or perhaps the project goes belly up, the developer goes bankrupt, and there's no financial backing for the important part of the project from the public purpose perspective, which is the affordable housing. And so there's a section in this ordinance, section 31-4, puts in this phasing schedule that requires the affordable units to be constructed in accordance with the schedule and in accordance with the market rate unit. So with that background, Felicia, I think your question is, how did the city handle the middle income housing units? Because middle income housing units are not, they're not common in municipalities' affordable housing ordinances. Most towns are only concerned with providing low and moderate income housing. Asbury Park is concerned with ensuring that not only housing for low and moderate income units is provided, but also housing for middle income housing units is provided. And so, Felicia, this ordinance continues to include middle income housing as part of its phasing schedule. So the phasing schedule sets forth the schedule for low, moderate, and middle income housing units to be built in conjunction with the market rate units.
Okay. Okay. So my question to that specifically is, when we put in the medium income, and I think people, because it's different, Monmouth County is different. So I think most people don't understand, the point of where, just like you said, you build up, you have 100 and you build 80 and all of them are, say, medium income and market rate, right? Medium income sounds really great. Right, because it's to have a provision for everything is great, but a median income, a person making 81 or 82,000 a year, a family of one making 82 or 83,000 a year, right? Being in protective housing, right, is kind of jarring to me. That it's fit into the phase that someone who say makes, a family of 4 that makes, 80, right, a year, is put behind. So to me, this, and I know we went back and forth with fair sharing you, and we came to the medium and how you triple it out. But I'm just saying there's concern in there for multiple people that I'm speaking to and myself to have that idea that we have to protect someone that makes almost one person that almost makes $100,000 a year in the city of Asbury Park. So, just putting that into the thing, and I know nothing is concrete and things can be revisited later, but just saying that is a bit of concern for most people in this town, and it's a bit of concern of mine. So, even though we phased it back, we kind of pushed it back in the phasing, I would just, to the counseling stuff to say, hold up, wait, a little bit, and, amend or any of those things, because if we have to protect one person that makes $100,000, what kind of city are we building? And when we put in those words and those specific words, we're laying a blueprint that everybody else is normal. The millionaires are normal and everybody else is poor.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my concern with that phasing, part of the phasing. And the rest of it is, and then the part of fair share, the rest of it is kind of that part we slid in, the rest of it is kind of cookie cutter to the rest of the state by law. So, Asbury, we specifically went out of our way to make that kind of odd twerk. And if we can twerk the law, the state law like that, the state law in that way, in other ordinances, we can't twerk. So I just wanted to know, how did that just slide in? Council, not planners, because planners just do jobs. I'm asking the council people.
I think what. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not totally sure I understand Felicia's question, but it's my understanding, and Beth, maybe you could correct me. Asbury currently does not have an obligation for new units, but there's going to be likely a new ruling within the next, let's say, 1 to 5 years. And we wanted to ensure we got credit for the units we do actually get in Asbury. Is that a fair statement, Beth?
But that doesn't have anything to do with this statement. The medium income doesn't count towards our credit at all. It doesn't count towards the credit of affordable housing, the median income. So that's why I'm asking.
Decides the income, Felicia, right? The city doesn't get to pick.
No, the city did make the bracket of medium income. The city did make it. We made it ourselves. So I'm asking, why did we make that bracket when the county and the state, and we don't get any credit for it? It doesn't count towards anything. It's just saying that, look, a bunch of millionaires are coming and we want to make sure that, everybody else, get it. But we're making provisions for millionaires, and which I don't, make a provision for millionaires. I don't, come on, millionaires, if you want to come, right? I'm all happy for you. I know a couple, they're good people, right? But why are we putting that into our plan when we don't have to? And it's a twerk. We're twerking state law to put in something that doesn't need to be there. And I'm asking the council, why are we twerking it? A person that makes almost $100,000 a year, if you're just one person, you should be able to afford to live here. I think that goes on to the further reason why we need these ordinances, but it's also curious to me, why are we putting that specific? We went out our way to put that specific ordinance. We made it up. It didn't come from anywhere else. We made it up for us. Why did we do that?
Excuse me, Beth, it's Yvonne. I have a question. Wasn't the median income, wasn't that $80,000 for a family of 4?
That's a medium. We have a medium. There's a medium income. See, there's low income, median, and we have medium. That's a whole separate bracket.
No, I'm talking about the middle income bracket. Wasn't that $80,000 for a family of 4?
Let me pull up the income splits real fast, just to be make sure I'm correct with the.
And Felicia, to answer your question, our thinking was that we want to keep affordable housing for low, very low, and moderate, but we also want to be able to keep a middle class here. We don't want this to be just a city of low, moderate, and very, very wealthy. And if we can have a balance throughout the city, that this would help us do that.
And
it
that's
wasn't-
what
it
my
wasn't-
contingent.
And it
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
$80,000 for one person. My understanding was $80,000 for a family of 4. And that could be
No.
your firemen, your policemen, your school
No,
teachers.
that's under moderate and affordable. That's under moderate and affordable can go for a family of 4 to 120,000. That's under the low income and affordable guidelines. We made a separate one in this ordinance that's called medium income, and that is a person of 1 making $80,000.
Can I jump in here, folks?
Please.
Okay. So let me just provide some clarity on the income ranges. So first of all incomes, the very low, moderate, median, middle income housing is based on the median income of the region. In here in Asbury Park, the region includes Mercer, Monmouth, and Ocean counties. And so our very low, I'm sorry, I'm just going to give a little background. The very low income is 30% of median income based on household size. Low income is 50%. Moderate income is 80%, and then middle income is 120%. Felicia cited the middle income for a single person of around $80,000 per year. I do think that is that is generally correct. I think it's a little bit over $80,000 a year.
It's 83
in front of me.
I think it's
There
like
you go.
83.
Thank you. Yeah. So that is generally correct. The middle income housing units, they do not generate credit for the city. They are not eligible for credit against an affordable housing obligation. Instead, that is a city policy, a city goal to ensure full inclusivity within the city of Asbury Park, meaning households that can afford, say, the very high-end waterfront units, households that are at very low income, moderate income, and then in order to bridge the gap, so to speak, between moderate income and higher end households that will that may be able to afford some of the newer market rate units, the city has created this category of middle income housing units between moderate income and that 120% of median income. And so that's intended to, as I said, provide full inclusivity within the city of not just affordable units and not just wealthy units, but to, as I said, try to bridge that gap. And so that's the purpose behind the middle income housing. In terms of the middle income housing, I think that one of the things that we can do is the city should consider whether or not, so first, I strongly recommend that the middle income housing remain part of the phasing schedule. I think it's important to ensure that the developers actually provide the middle income housing and not wait until, for example, last to build those units and then decide not to complete the project. It's important that they be included in there. And so what the city should consider is whether or not the ordinance should address that middle income housing units shall not be built faster than the lower moderate income units.
And I'm saying in that component, the standard practice, which most people pay for rent, but the standard practice on paper is supposed to be 30 to 33% of your income. A person that makes $83,000 a year, 33% of their income is closely over 22,000 or so, 23,000, something like that, right? Maybe a little off. My math, it's my mind, I'm eating dinner, right? So if you can spend, the fact of saying we're protecting someone who can pay $23,000 a year in rent to make sure they have a safe place, I think we're going a little off kilter a bit. And to say, and then in a practice, when we're saying, make sure we protect that's what, a little over, like close to $3,000 a month or something. I don't know my math in this time, but saying someone who can spend that much money in for rent, which most people pay more than 50% of their rent, their income and their household expenses, is setting a dangerous precedent on a piece of paper, right, that we have, because paper is the only thing we have. We have good intentions by saying, your council members that are sitting there now. But in the future, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when you're not there, right? Not on the council, right? Maybe, I don't know, right? Because some of you are pretty young, right? Saying that it's saying a president for someone to slide in and do something dangerous. So putting that on paper to me is just a little dangerous. And that's why I asked the question.
All right, well, I think that Ms. McManus has answered the question that you raised. The council can consider your comments, and unless you have anything further to add right now, Felicia, I think we need to move on to the next speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, I am moving on to Maureen Nevin. Maureen.
Are you getting feedback? Okay, I'm gonna come in here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If you can't hear me, I'll go back inside, but then I'll have to leave this phone in here, I think. Maybe I should do that anyway. Wait.
We can hear you.
Maureen, this is Mike Manzella. If you just turn the volume off on your computer and just talk through the phone, we should be able to hear you better. If you heard that.
Okay. Now we can hear each other, right?
Yes, thank you.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
go ahead.
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, I'm not hearing you through my phone, so let's do it the other way around.
We'll
Okay.
go to the next. Okay.
Okay, I'm putting the phone in the other room.
You want me to move on to the next person?
Yeah,
so
should we
Maureen
go to the
can-
next person and then circle back to Maureen just to keep things moving?
Yes.
Okay. Maureen, we're going to move on to the next person, and then we'll get back to you when you figure this out.
Go ahead.
Okay. I am moving on to 2954. 2954. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, this is Sam Georgie. I spoke earlier tonight. I'm a staff attorney at Fair Share Housing Center. I had one clarifying question for Ms. McManus. Ms. McManus, in the phasing schedule of this affordable housing ordinance that's being adopted, is the middle income category still in the phasing schedule, or has it been removed?
It is in the phasing schedule.
It had been my understanding, based on prior discussions, I believe, that advocates in the city had with the council, that the middle income category was going to be removed from the phasing schedule. Had that changed at some point?
I think what had been discussed with Sam is that the city would consider adding a statement to the ordinance that stated to the effect that the middle income housing units shall not be constructed at a faster pace than the low and moderate income housing units.
Has that been inserted into the affordable housing ordinance?
The version I'm looking at does not suggest so.
Okay. And then I guess another question I would have for you then is, the phasing schedule, I presume, is based on the same phasing schedule that was in the regulations that were issued by the Council on Affordable Housing,
Yes.
and that applied statewide. And in the phasing
Yes.
schedule from the Council on Affordable Housing, is there a middle income category as part of that schedule?
No.
No. And so, and I guess I understand that from what you've explained, and the council expressed that they would like, middle income units to be built alongside moderate, low, and very low income units that are what are deemed affordable housing. But I guess I would state, the position of Fair Share Housing Center is and would remain that we believe that affordable units are those that are traditional for individuals who earn 80% of area median income and less, and that the phasing schedule that ensures that affordable housing units are built as part of inclusionary developments should prioritize affordable units over middle income units, which I believe are defined as 120% of area median income to 80%. And so our opinion and our position has been, and it was my understanding that the city, might be revising this ordinance, but our position would be that we would prefer and we would strongly suggest that the phasing schedule not include the middle income category, but includes moderate, low, and very low income. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
If I can, I understand Fair Share and Mr. Gurji's position. It certainly is intended to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, certainly intended to ensure the development of low and moderate income housing units because they are of greater need and they are part of the city's, New Jersey's constitutional obligation. However, I do recommend that the middle income housing units remain part of the phasing schedule because we don't want to lose the requirement that they be built in conjunction with market rate units. We don't want to lose the essentially the leverage, the natural born leverage the city has over developers due to the phasing schedule to ensure that the middle income units are built. If the city is so inclined, you could amend. If the city is so inclined, you could amend the ordinance to simply state that the middle income units shall not be built at a faster pace than the affordable units, the low and moderate income units in the phasing schedule, to ensure that that a developer does not front load all of the middle income units, which are the higher paying units, and leave the very low and moderate income units for the very last possible.
Thank you, and we would certainly support that, Ms. McManus.
Yeah, we can move to amend that, I think.
Yes, and if I can just clarify, I thought that was already part of the ordinance that was introduced.
Fred,
Because
I sort of thought it was too, but I can't find.
That was one of
I'm
Fair
sorry.
Share's requests. And
I
that
had thought it was as
incorporated
well, but I
before the
couldn't
ordinance
find
was
it in my ordinance. I couldn't confirm it, and I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to get out in front of City Council during the public hearing if I couldn't confirm it.
Well,
So Beth, when we vote on this, we'll just move to amend to ensure the low and lower income units.
You will move if the City Council is so inclined. The motion would, and if we can't confirm that that's the version that was introduced, the City Council would amend the ordinance to state that middle income units shall not be built at a faster pace than the moderate income units.
Yeah.
Okay, this is John Moore. It's going to be a question for Fred because I don't believe you can have a substantial change to the second reading of an ordinance without starting the process again. So if you want to take a 5-minute recess and see if it was in the original.
Mayor, I don't need to take a 5-minute recess. We can amend the ordinance this evening in accordance with the provision that Beth just read, and you can still proceed to adopt the ordinance as amended this evening.
Thank you. Next question.
Okay, I am moving on. Let's go back to Maureen Nevin.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was going to ask, for example, how the middle income would be enforced, because that's rather strange. And I think that this points out a problem with the distribution, the way the ordinances were mailed out, because I only got the one ordinance and the summary ordinance. That was 2 of them. I didn't get this one. I think that we all should have gotten this because it explains how these things are overseen and what the reinforcement of these rules are, how they're carried out. I think everybody should have received that. And any other ordinance, like Main Street, is important to everybody because that's where we go to do our shopping and and perform government duties. So I would think that should have been, I guess the question would be, why weren't they distributed to all the residents here? What was the other one? Right. And like I say, I think this, I tend to agree with Felicia that this 120% of, the salary being 120% of what you need to make the rent is pretty steep. And as I say, I don't know how you would enforce the rules, because it's not really a rule. It's kind of strange. I don't see the point of it. Why would, and the thing is that, so you are explaining though that this doesn't affect the 20%. So if they have to do 20% set aside, the middle income would not take care of some of that 20%.
That's correct. The middle income is a separate requirement.
Right. So I don't see, what the purpose of it is. I mean, it's obviously not affordable to most people to have that kind of a rent. So that's all I have now. But I wanted to point out that John, Mayor Moore, you didn't answer the first part of my question on the public portion. So I could find it now.
Well, I can't answer it now because we're just on the ordinance. I apologize for that, Maureen. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll call you tomorrow, and I apologize.
All right. If you want, you could send me an email. That'd be fine.
Shoot me an email reminding me what your.
I knew what it was. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And
Mayor, I can jump in with regard to Maureen's initial question here with regard to why other areas of the town the residents didn't receive personal notice of the various ordinances which are on the council's agenda this evening. The reason is that personal notice.
Was that her question during the public session?
No, it was for this
with regard to this particular
ordinance.
No, what she's looking for now is the question as far as the opening 3 minutes, which I didn't jot it down or something. Again, I apologize. He's not looking for clarification on this.
Yeah, but Fred wanted to answer me about why we weren't noticed on the other ordinances, correct?
Yes, and I can very quickly answer that question because personal notice is not required under the local redevelopment and housing law for an amendment to a redevelopment plan. And there are numerous ordinances that are on the agenda this evening that amend a redevelopment plan. The personal service is only required under the New Jersey municipal land use law when an ordinance changes the classification or boundaries of a zoning district. And the ordinance regarding the Deal Lake Drive inclusionary zoning district changes the classification of a zoning district, and that's why that particular ordinance was mailed out by regular and certified mail to all property owners in accordance with the New Jersey municipal land use law. The city complied with the notice requirements.
But I did receive the Deal Lake Drive ordinance. I didn't receive the ones for Main Street.
Yes, and you were only
required and the one for the wait a minute, let me just give you the number. I didn't get the 30. Right? Is that the one that we were just talking about, right?
Yes, so you are only required by law to receive the ordinance that changes the classification or boundaries of the zoning district. So you were sent the ordinances relating to the Deal Lake Drive area. The law does not require personal service of the other notices. The city is fully complied with all applicable legal requirements regarding all of the other ordinances and the notice associated with them.
Wow. And would you mind, Fred, sending that to me, please, so you can cite the statute?
I'll be
please.
happy to do that outside of this proceeding.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks very much.
Can I,
moving on.
Melody, let me quickly step in.
Sure.
As per
before Ms. Nevin spoke, it was questioned whether the language that was supposed to go in about the middle income units is in the ordinance tonight. It is on packet page 159, section 31-4, new construction. States under phasing, middle income units shall not be completed at a faster rate than the development's low and moderate income units. I just want to clarify the record.
Thank you, Michelle.
Great, so then we don't have to move to amend.
There's no need to amend the ordinance. The language is already in there, which is what I thought.
Next.
Great. Oh, okay, Derek Minnow Bloom.
Hi, yes,
Derek?
1108 First Avenue. I just wanted to say, just add to what Felicia was saying, and we had so many meetings, I can't remember them all. But from what I remember, at first, way back when, we even was talking about potentially 15% affordable, and then the next 5% would be middle income, and the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition wasn't, and this was just talking, this wasn't in a draft, but we did not support that and said that I think we wanted 20%. And then said if the city wanted to do middle income plus the 20%, and I can't remember if Felicia or if we were at this meeting, and we mentioned, well, as long as it's 20%, and then also if there's middle income, that still allows for less high income people to be here. And so we kind of moved forward with it as long as we got the 20%. That's where I remember us leaving it. So
That's my
no
recollection as well, Derek, is as long as we had the 20%. My recollection is the same as yours.
And I agree.
But I think just the added addition to what we also did say is like, and we were also like, that's great if there's some middle income left there for people, and especially with the new addendum, just saying that that won't come at the expense of the 20% or faster than, we were like, well, I guess that's good that it's not just for the super wealthy, that there's some for middle class, which in Monmouth County happens to be 80 or 90 grand, which is pretty wealthy, but that's just where we left it.
Is that it, Derek? Okay. I am moving on
Thank you.
to Ernest McNolly.
Hi, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Mayor Moore, I never received the certified mail that you put out in the public in a statement that you're definitely sure I received it and signed for it. Why don't you just prove that by going to the post office? I'll tell you why.
Mr. McNolly,
Because
there was no certified mailing with regard to this ordinance, so you're off topic. There was no certified mailing.
No, Fred, he's not off topic. He was waiting to get on, and he was off, and I said, well, he can still hear me. And I was speaking about the last ordinance, and I said he could correct me if I'm wrong. So Mr. McNolly has corrected me. He did not receive his certified copy, which had the map in it. So, Mr. McNolly, I apologize, but you had every right to bring that up at this time.
That's okay, Mayor, but I just wanted to add a reason. In the Santander, a lot of mail is misplaced, stolen, packages stolen. So that's probably the reason. But I didn't receive it. So we're in agreement, and I appreciate your willingness to say that. Okay, so now about this thing, about the income, it's becoming a big concern because maybe I kind of look a little bit globally at how Asbury is kind of developing and how this ordinance impacts it. And let me tell you what my thinking is. You're often referring to this Monmouth County income scale, which Asbury Park is so far out of it's like in a Venn diagram. It really bears no connection to all the data of income of Monmouth County, which means, you know, we're in like an economically deprived area. There's very little economy except in, I don't know, bars and clubs and stuff. And everybody keeps talking about going to Main Street for shopping. What shopping? I live here. What shopping is there? I mean, what's opening up? Cigar shops and it's not my kind of shopping. How about a clothing store? How about
a tailor? How about a shoe store? How about something where we can shop? So I don't get this that, you know, we're going to put affordable housing in an area that's going to be able to enjoy all these things that don't exist. I mean, still, the affordable housing on Main and Deal Lake Drive, wherever you're talking about in this group of ordinances, when you actually create it and people are living there, right, they're still going to be stuck with shopping in the non-affordable areas that you created where, I mean, I can't afford to shop there. But there's nothing to buy anyway.
So this ordinance isn't about shopping? Can we just direct back to a question specifically about this ordinance? Thank you.
Who was that?
That was Amy, Ernest. That was Amy.
Oh, you know, you're supposed to identify yourself. Am I done?
Mr.
You cut me off?
Please continue and stick to the ordinance that's on the table.
Yeah, I know. Really, I mean, if you listen to everybody else, but anyway, I'll take it for me. So what you're talking about is creating these units affordable, and you're talking about income, and then you're talking about distribution around the city, which anyone can see that we're talking like on Main Street, on Deal Lake Drive, with the exception of the rest of the city, which is still okay. That's not my point. My point is, why is it, since we've already met our affordable housing requirements, why can't developers come in and be asked to build 100% affordable?
So I can answer that question for you, Mr. Vignoli. This is Beth McManus.
Okay.
Municipalities are not permitted to zone properties for 100% affordable housing as the only permitted use. It could certainly be one of several permitted uses, but we are not allowed to state this property or this group of properties shall be developed only with affordable units. There are some exceptions, but those exceptions have to include essentially agreement from the property owner or municipal ownership of the site. So those are really not applicable to the scenario here in Asbury Park. Instead, a municipality has to, if it's going to use its zoning powers to create affordable housing, has to do so through inclusionary housing, like the Main Street or the B District ordinance that we talked about this evening.
Okay, well, isn't that by your own explanation? I don't want to use the word discriminatory, but isn't that like saying you're going to put all affordable housing in certain areas and not the others? I mean, why can't it be in all areas? I mean, all right, you're going to say it's off topic.
I don't think I understand the question.
Okay, you're misconstruing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raffetto. Let me move on because I really don't want to hear from you. But so now we're back to this income, creating the affordable housing where you said, and what you're saying is the configuration of these units will probably be a certain amount of 3 bedrooms and a certain amount of 2 bedrooms. And what I'm going to ask you is, why in affordable are you, let's say, mandating or writing into these ordinances the need for 3 bedroom? And can I answer it for you? I'm going to answer it for you. Okay. The reason is because there's a lot of families in Asbury who need affordable housing and have kids, and they need 3 bedrooms. And if you look at the configuration, even in the areas where you're talking now, right? When you talk 80% for fair market, that means very few people who really need it and where you're talking about need 3 bedrooms because they have kids are going to get it. And if it is available, it's going to be highly competitive. And what's going to sit on top of the competition? That unrealistic thing from the county that averages out, I don't know, Freehold and Colts Neck and Spring Lake with Asbury Park. I mean, there's no rational connection between statistics of income, of grouping everybody in Monmouth County or Ocean together. It's just a twilight zone. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, but you gotta explain where are the rest of the 3 bedrooms? Doesn't anybody who's at market value have kids, or is that what you're not catering to? And if, in
Mr.
fact,
Magnoli, I want to answer your question, but I'm having trouble. Can you just, when you're ready, please ask me the question once more. I'm having trouble understanding what to address for you.
okay, explain to me the 3-bedroom requirement for affordable, when in fact, the same zoning, planning, and developers and code and everybody, mayor, council, are allowing market, which some people refer to as millionaires, to build units with 1 bedroom exclusively. And I heard they're even trying to build studios, when in fact, isn't that discriminatory against people who have 3 kids and need 3 bedrooms?
So let me answer this. So the cities, for the market rate units, the city does not regulate, and Michelle or somebody can correct me if I'm not thinking of a particular area, but the city does not regulate the market rate bedrooms. Most municipalities, with limited exceptions, do not regulate the number of bedrooms in market rate units. And quite honestly, where they do, it's typically done to constrain them, to require that only studios, 1s, and maybe 2-bedroom units be developed. But instead, Asbury Park does not regulate the bedrooms of market rate units. It's simply left to the developer to determine what's most marketable for his project, his or her project, whether they're trying to build housing for parents with children, or whether they're trying to build housing for individuals or perhaps couples. It allows for the market to drive the decision about the number of bedrooms in the market rate unit. For the affordable unit, this ordinance mimics the state requirements for affordable housing units that state that there must be a mix of bedrooms in an affordable housing project for the affordable units, such that no more than 20% of the affordable units have 1 bedroom or be studios, that at least 30% of the affordable units have 2 bedrooms, and at least 30% of the affordable units have 3 bedrooms. And so that bedroom distribution requirement of 1s, 2s, and 3s for the affordable units is intended to do just as you're stating, to make sure that affordable housing units are provided are provided in not only the smallest unit possible, studios or 1 bedrooms, but actually provides a diversity of housing and actually provides housing for families that are in need of affordable housing.
Well,
all right, well, thank you for answering that question, Ms. McManus. Mayor, I think you might want to move on to the next speaker.
Hey, why is that, Mr. Raffretto? I'm not finished. Hello? Unbelievable. Would they cut me off?
No, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So what I don't understand, if what you're saying is true, and we're following this, all the ordinances, which in theory, let's just accept them and say that's a great scenario. But relative to this ordinance, let's look at Asbury and explain to me why, if they're building enough 3 bedrooms, which would it mean families, right? Why is the school system running out of children? What's going on here?
Oh, brother.
I can't answer your question about school children. I think that's a bit off topic
on.
for the ordinance.
Oh no, what? That's not relative?
Our school system is not relative to this ordinance, Ernest.
Yes, it is. The school system is tied to housing, Miss Alonso. I don't know where you get that comment. It always has been. Whenever people shop for a home with their realtor, they always talk about the school system. So for you to rule it out is out of line, but you make a lot of statements that are out of line. So now you're going to cut me off.
Okay, next.
Okay, I am moving on to Felicia Simmons. Felicia? Felicia?
Hello? Hello? I muted you. I had you on mute on my own phone. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I had you on mute on my own phone. Sorry. So my question is just to add on, and thank you for the making sure that was phased. But just my question is on the wording. It says not made at a faster pace. So is that meaning faster pace? Like, say if you build 6, shouldn't it be more like shouldn't be built until after the other ones are made? Because the reason why we put it in there and the phasing's in there for reasons like you stated earlier. Say if a person built all of the units and built all of the market rate units and then ran out of money for their things or decided, oh, well, we have no more funding, and then the, affordable get left off. But when you phase it into, or even at a faster pace, mix it into the pace, if the same thing happens and we only get to build 15% of the affordable or 10% of the affordable because we mixed it in, shouldn't it be made at the end? And since it's something special, or saying or complying with a 20% affordable, and then stated in there another language, say 5% medium income, because again, I have no problem with putting it in there. I just want to make sure. Well, I do have a slight problem with putting in there. It's just on what it states for. But I'm just saying to make sure that all of the affordable gets built before. And wording is very important. So when it says at a faster pace, no, if you're building it with it, it's not a faster pace, but it also can cut down on what can be built. And we're supposed to put in make sure that we get it in there, the affordable, before we put in the medium. And then to go back to what was said earlier, just recently in the last statement when speaking to Mr. Monalty when Beth was speaking, right? We changed the ordinance for ourselves. We twerked it to make sure that we fit this in. But in other areas, we haven't seemed to twerk this in the same ordinance. We haven't seemed to twerk it to make sure that we protect the most vulnerable, right? And I think that we really need to be aware of the wordage that we use, right? Because it's, I sit and I go through with people. I go over every word and everything, and I have an understanding and maybe a bigger vocabulary and understand the different lingos, but the common person doesn't. And to understand that this wording and what we put on paper is very important. So I'm just saying when a faster pace, this maybe say before, shouldn't be built before the affordable, and mandate that a 25 should be in this area with 5% being the medium, but it should not be built before the 20% low income and moderate income. And that's just, is that a twerk we can do? It is a twerk that we can do, and it will protect the heart of the whole purpose of this affordable housing plan. Without any without any leeway, without any legal ease, so someone can't switch it up to it depends on the interpretation of a different lawyer or whoever interprets it at the time. If you make it clear, right, it will be clear.
Well, on behalf of the city, this is Fred Ruffetto, the attorney. The language that the city incorporated with regard to phasing is exactly the language that was suggested to us by Fair Share Housing Center in their letter dated March 25th, 2020. I love Fair Share. I love everybody, but my question is specific, right? My question is specific to that, right? I agree. I sit in the group and we vote, and I agree, but that doesn't stop a question in my own mind. And my question in my own mind, because Fair Share is not Asbury, I'm asking my Asbury officials, can we twerk, right? As we twerk to even make this whole thing, can't we twerk it to make sure, and without any legal gymnastics that can be held later, the ordinance to make sure that the protected housing, the protected people are the protected people, and the 20% should be done before the 25%. And then also, just to twerk again, it clicked back in my head, to go with this ordinance, we made special inclusions in other ordinance, and in this one, we're trying to be regulated. No, this is special to us, and we can make it the way we want to make it. You can make it with the way you want to make it, council, and just make sure that the protected and the vulnerable few
and the integrity of the work that you put into this is really honored and will continue to be honored in the future by just making sure that the wordage is tight.
Okay, thank you. Question asked several times. Question noted. Next.
I'm done.
Okay, I am moving on to, are you finished, Felisa? I'm moving on to Ernest McNolly.
Hello.
Mr.
Ernest
McNolly?
McNolly, 400, yes. Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, Apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey. So, first of all, I'd like to be on the record as saying I would ask that this vote on this particular ordinance be carried to after the pandemic. I think there's a lot of issues that need to be.
Mr. Magnoli, you could have asked that at the beginning of the minute with your three.
No.
Beginning of the meeting with your 3 minutes. The question has to be on the ordinance, not a request. It could have been made before, please.
Okay. Can this ordinance, the voting on it, be put off, be postponed?
If you ask it again, I'm going to mute you.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I thought you wanted me to. Okay, let me move on. So now, this is for is it the planner? We're back to the 3-bedroom units. And regardless of what people make comments on top of mine, that there's no relationship to affordable housing, amount of bedrooms, the school system, and the way the city is being made fair for everybody. They can make their comments, but here's what I want to ask you. If the city comes in and allows to be built, let's say in these 8-story buildings, let's say there's 100 units in there. So according to your formula, 20 are going to have to be affordable, correct? Correct. And then you said, of that, 30% of that 20% are going to have to be 3 bedrooms. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a math wizard, but if you got 100 units and you require 20 affordable, and then you require 30% of that 20 to be 3 bedrooms, that means 6 units out of 100 will be fulfilling what this city needs more than anything. It needs affordable family housing, 3-bedroom, to bring this city back to a city that has a lot of children running around and families. And on this formula, if we continue 80% market, 20% affordable, with only 30% of that 20 for 3 bedrooms, which is almost always 1 or 2 children. Right? As I know it, if there's same-sex children, I think they could share a bedroom. So you could have a family of 4 as long as the gender ratio is correct. So that could be the bring back of what we need. And wouldn't it be great if all those affordable and families were sprinkled all over the city? How good would that be? It'd be like the old days. Now you're going to cut me off. You think that's enough?
Is there a question I can answer?
Yeah, there is. Do you think six units out of 100 are enough for what Asbury needs? For 3 bedrooms, for families, for affordable?
Well, look, I don't know the study for Asbury Park specifically. The ordinance is intended to reference the state standards, which we are required to do. Does the city have a greater need for 3-bedroom affordable units than simply just 20%? That may well be the case, but municipalities are best served by mimicking the state standards so that they can ensure full credit for their units.
And
I think it's a great start. Adopting this ordinance is the only thing that will ensure that the city will be able to get, as you point out, essentially those coveted, or maybe not coveted, but those most needed affordable units. This ordinance is the best way for the city to accomplish that.
All right. Sounds like Ms. McManus has answered your question, Mr.
Well, no. I still have another question. Mr. Alfredo, can you stop interrupting me? Can I ask the planner a response to what you just said? Wasn't it stated earlier by another caller that the city has already met its affordable housing component? And then your answer was, yes, that's right. But look, isn't it great that the city of Asbury, the mayor and council and development and everybody is going further and beyond that on our own, which means, like Deputy Mayor Quinn said, the carrot. The city holds a carrot over the developers. Well, if you hold such a carrot, why not get us some more 3 bedrooms for families, affordable? And that's the end of my comment.
Okay, not seeing any more hands raised. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on 2020-14?
Move to close,
Motion to
Quinn.
close, Kendall.
Do I have a second?
Quinn. Yep, second Quinn.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The public hearing is now closed on 2020-14. Are there any questions or comments before we move on to the roll call? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to adopt 2020-14?
Move to adopt, Quinn.
Second, Clayton.
Second, Chapman?
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall? Deputy Mayor Quinn?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
We're on to the public hearing for 2020-15, which is an ordinance amending the land development regulations of the City of Asbury Park to amend Article 8 Redevelopment Plan, Section 30-110.1 Central Business District CBD Redevelopment Plan, consistent and designed to effectuate the city's adopted 2019 third round housing element and fair share plan. Beth, can you provide us with a brief overview?
Absolutely. This is the last ordinance proposed for adoption that impacts affordable housing regulations in a particular zone of the city. And this particular ordinance addresses the CBD, the Central Business District. Of course, this is located at the southern end of the city, centering around portions of Cookman Avenue, Bangs Avenue, Bond Street, etc. And this ordinance, like the others, incentivizes the creation of affordable housing, and it does so by increasing the permitted building height by 10 feet and eliminating the parking requirement for affordable units for the low and moderate income units. And in exchange for that 10 foot of building height increase in the elimination of parking for affordable units, it requires a 15% affordable housing set aside. And that's it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-15?
Move to open, Clayton.
Second, Eileen.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? The public hearing is now open on 2020-15. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When you're called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Your comments or questions can only be about the public hearing on the ordinance being presented. I am calling on Maureen Nevin.
Thank you. This is Maureen Nevin, D-Lake Court. I'm confused here about the building height. What was it about the parking? Was it that they are offering the builders, if they go 15% set aside, so they don't have to provide parking? Is that what?
Yeah, so let me clarify. This ordinance is it's a little bit different in terms of comparing it to some of the other ordinances that have been adopted. What this states is where 15% of the units in a building are reserved for low and moderate income housing, so 15% as opposed to 20%, the building shall be permitted an additional 10 feet of building height, and the affordable units shall not be required parking. So what this states is 10 additional feet of building height and no parking is required for the affordable units only, where 15% of the affordable unit, 15% of the units will be affordable. So this is not just simply a blanket change to the district that says now you can have an additional 10 feet of building height. Instead, the 10 feet of building height and the parking is tied specifically to the creation of a 15% set aside of affordable units.
Okay, I would like to go on the record as saying that I do not think that it's equitable to deny people affordable housing, well, they giving people affordable housing, but denying them parking spaces in return. I mean, that is just wrong. People need their cars to go to their jobs, to take their children to school, to many, many things. And we're supposed to be talking all about the fact that we want to accommodate a diverse population here. And this is, to me, you're penalizing them. Yeah, we'll let you have a roof over your head that you can afford. In exchange, we're going to make you hoof it, you know, from 10 blocks away, especially in this area, the CBD. I'm really opposed to it. And that's all I have to comment on right now. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to Ernest McNolly.
Hi, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey. I feel like I'm one of 4 people that live in Asbury. But anyway, Central Business District. I'm sorry, Ms. Planner. Can I call you Ms. Planner? Is that what you are, a city hired planner? Affordable housing planner, correct? Ms. Hello?
Correct. Mr. McNolly's name is Beth McManus.
Okay. And is she the hired affordable housing consultant planner?
Yes.
Yes, she is. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So now, my question, now we're talking about Central Business District, which you described as certain areas of Cookman, Bond. I think you may have said, I don't know, did you say Madison or I don't know what. Is there any way, in the interest of understanding exactly where, you could be a little more specific? Can you say to me, Maine on Cookman to Ocean, and Bond from Cookman north to, I don't know, Sewell or something, or Madison from Maine to where it joins Cookman? Now, is that correct, or can you correct me? Because you're going to be voting on something, and the public and the taxpayers have a vested interest here, and we're not even describing where it is.
Mr. McNolly, it's very clear from the ordinance that this applies to the Central Business District redevelopment area. The Central Business District redevelopment area has been known and understood in the city of Asbury Park for many, many years.
Not by me. Not by me, and
McNolly.
I didn't get a copy.
Everybody, time out, time out. Mr. McNolly, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Mr. Alonso, I think he's entitled to know the district. Please read him the boundaries, be it north, south, east, west, so everybody understands where the CBD is.
Okay. CBD redevelopment plan area. Its western boundary is Main Street. Its northern boundary is Summerfield. Its southern boundary is Lake Street. Its western boundary is Grand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, for the clarification. That's a huge tract, by the way. I didn't realize the Central business strayed that far from Cookman, but now I know. And I've lived here 14 years, and I was born in this area, but I never knew the Central Business District was that encompassing. So that means if you stand on Cookman Avenue and you look north, you're going all the way to, did you say Summerfield?
Summerfield, right. Lake.
Okay, good. Now if you're standing on Cookman, now you're talking from Maine, I guess, all the way to Ocean. That's Central Business,
Maine,
right?
Maine to Grand.
Maine to Grand. Okay, thank you, Mayor. And then if you're on Cookman and you're looking west. Does it go west of Main Street? No. Central Business.
The last time.
It does not.
Okay, good. Now all we have to clear up is south. Now we're talking to Lake Street, which means
south is Lake.
South is Lake, which means after that your back is to the lake, right? And that means it's that whole big quadrant, which I never knew that the business district classification was that large in Asbury, but now I know. And thank you, Mayor. So here's my question now. Would this include now if developers, and I guess the way you're talking about air rights and now bringing in affordable housing and applying equations and income and inclusion, et cetera. I mean, so far, what you're describing is a market, upper market area, which means there's really not much affordable that I know of. Maybe you can correct me. So this is an effort, I think, to include affordable in an area that's pretty deprived of affordable, whatever it is, medium, lower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct? Because that's a good thing, but is that correct? In other words, what you're saying is anyone who comes to us with an existing building or a new building, or let's say, no, this is an existing building, and we let you put up 10 more feet, meaning another floor, let's say on a 3-story building, we let you make it 4-story. Of that included 4-story, 20% have to be affordable, or does it apply to the whole building? You see what I mean? How I don't want to say tricky, but I can't figure that out. When you're going to allow somebody to put 10 feet on, let's say, a 3-story building in CBD, and then you say it's got to be 20% housing, a low income, does that mean 20% of the new addition?
Time out, Mr. Magnoli.
No?
CBD is 15%.
Oh, 15. Okay. So with that in mind, Mayor, then clarify for me. Let's pick any building on Cookman that's 3-story now, right? And let's say a developer comes and say, look, I want to put what you approved. I want to put 10 more feet, another floor. Now, you say, oh, you can do that, but you got to have affordable housing. We'll give you abated parking requirements for that affordable housing. But now, Mayor, my question to you is it 15% of the added density that, or does that apply to the whole?
The ordinance itself says 15% of
You know, I thought I was asking the mayor a question.
In a building. I'm clarifying your question. You asked about the 15% and how it's applied, and the ordinance reads 15% of the total housing units in a building when they're reserved for low and moderate income housing.
Okay. So if I can, back to the mayor. So in other words, what Mr. Raffredo just clarified, you got a 3-story building. A developer comes to you and says, I want air rights, build another floor 10 feet. You say, okay, we already pre-approved that. Now you got to apply. We know that. Then the affordable housing plan kicks in, right? So now they have to have 15% of 4 floors has to be affordable. Am I getting it?
Correct. He said, and he read it, and I'll repeat it for the last time.
No, you don't have to. I got it. Now, here's my next question.
Units in a building.
Okay, I got that. Thank you, Mayor. Now, if you just stay with me, of that 15% of the total building now, right? What percent has to be 3 bedrooms for families? 30% of that 15%? Maybe the planner. Does this still apply here? Which means, what are we going to gain? Like 4 3-family affordable homes in the central business district? Not many. What's 30% of 15% in a building? What's that, 3 units? 2 units? I hope that's not an offensive question. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys blame me for everything. Sandy, Ebola. What else haven't you blamed me for? Zika.
Zika.
Okay, Mr. Magnoli, let's stay on point. Ms. McManus.
Okay. So I asked you, Mayor, by this equation.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. McManus.
I'm asking Ms. McManus to answer your question.
You know my question, right, Ms. McManus? If you got a 3-story building existing with mixed use in central business district, usually there's retail on the bottom and then the residential starts on the 2nd and 3rd floor. I guess, I don't know, because so many things get changed. But let's assume that model, right? Now a developer comes on Cookman somewhere and says, look, I want it, what you said and what you approved. I want to take 10 feet, which is another story, right? And then the classification that you're going to apply to me is we got to follow, is it your own income? Because we're now past the required. So now what you set as the income for affordable, is that now, since the county can't dictate to us anymore, is that going to be set by the mayor and council? Now, is that a circuitous question, or you want me to twerk it?
I think your question is whether or not the incomes of the affordable units will be set by the county or another entity or by the city.
Right,
They will
because
be
we're already over the required affordable needed by the county and I think by the state. So now we're on our own, which I don't have a problem with that. But does that mean that the mayor and council are going to determine what's affordable in the CBD?
Mr. Magnoli, let me answer your question, please. I have an
Who is
answer
that?
I think
Who
will
is-
set. This is Ms. McManus or Ms.
Okay.
Planner, as you refer to me.
Well,
Your
as well.
question, the answer to your question is that the rents or the sales prices of the affordable units will be set pursuant to the ordinance that the city council just adopted, the Affordable Housing Regulating Ordinance, which is number 2020-14. In that ordinance, as I said, it regulates the prices of rents and sales prices of affordable units. That ordinance, although adopted by the city, is actually done to match or to be consistent with state standards for affordable housing units. The state has set standards for example, how to determine the appropriate rents for an affordable unit. The city's ordinance, which has now been adopted, mimics that language.
Okay. Okay. Less 5% though. Somebody cut 5% off, right? Somebody
I
went
don't know
from
what
20%.
the 5% is. No.
Well, I thought the rest of the areas.
That's an affordable housing set aside. Those are affordable housing set aside is not the same as the affordability, the percent affordability of a unit.
Okay. Are you saying that in the central business district, according to what you just said, that the condo sales will also be for affordable? Wait a minute.
What I'm saying is if a developer seeks to utilize an additional 10 feet of building height beyond that which is permitted, that they are required per this ordinance to make 15% of the units affordable. If, for example, there are existing owners in that building that own units, the developer will be unable to work with those units to make them affordable. The developer will not be able to tell somebody, now your unit is an affordable unit, so I can get my 10 feet of building height. That is not permitted.
I understand that. So then how would you meet the requirement? In other words, you got to have 15% affordable. And correct me if I'm wrong, you said of rental and sales. Now, are you including condos in this? In other words, are we going to now have...
housing units. The ordinance refers to housing units.
Does that include condos?
Yes, condos are housing units.
Sales.
All right, so I heard you correctly. So now we're going to have the sale of condos in central business district, 15% are going to be affordable sales, meaning if you're selling condos at market for $400,000, you then have to sell 15% affordable, right? And a certain percent 3-bedroom condos at affordable, which could be $40,000. Am I wrong? This I got to see. I have to see.
I don't have a sales price.
You know, I'm a big advocate for people in affordable homes in Asbury, and I can't wait to see somebody who qualifies for affordable housing move into a $40,000 condo in the central business district. I don't think I'm going to be around to see that. I don't think. Oh, I don't think.
Okay, next question or statement.
Okay, I am calling upon Tracy Rogers.
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
I'm asking on the parking. In that area, if units aren't required by the developer to have, do they have the ability to actually purchase a parking permit?
This is Beth McManus. I need to defer to others on that question.
I'll defer to Mike
Manzella
in a second, but I do not see why not. Mr. Manzo, do you want to answer? Tracy, we might have lost Mike. To the best of my knowledge, yes. I'm wrong.
Okay, thank you.
Back before the end of the meeting.
I'm sorry, I muted myself. Can you restate the question? I wasn't sure I heard it correctly.
Because these units are not deemed responsible by the developer, would these units have the ability to purchase a parking permit?
So any housing unit in Asbury Park that does not have off-street parking available to them is eligible to purchase an on-street parking permit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm calling upon Ernest McNolly.
Mr. Manzella, can I continue on that? So what you're saying is the affordable housing units, which some of them could be 3-bedroom, some of them could have 2-3 cars. We don't know. It's unknown. What you're saying is, like all the other buildings, like the one I live in, Santander, 82 units, no parking. Right? What you're saying is they're going to be able to buy permits. Now, here's my question. Affordable housing, to start having these expenses of pay for permits and maybe get parking tickets and who knows what, how does that fit? I mean, it just seems like, and then on top of that, you have high needs business for patron parking, employee parking, city employee parking, all jammed into central business district. And I want to know who's going to advocate for these affordable housing people to get parking, because where are they going to put the car? And even if they get a permit, you ever see in what zone is that? 4? Is central business 4, zone 4?
Yes, it is. Yes.
You know where zone 4 people with permits park? It's down by Deal Lake Drive. I mean, I don't understand how.
No. Zone 4 can park on Lake Ave, Summerfield Ave, Grand Ave, City Hall parking lot, or Transportation Center parking lot.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Mr. Manzella. But what I'm saying is, you're saying these affordable units, some of them could be 3-bedroom with kids, right? And could have 2 cars or whatever, right? What you're saying is that they have to go into the market with market and above people vying for a horrific shortage. What do you have in the town? 3,000 paid spots? And you're putting in, 100.
To answer your question, any housing unit in Asbury Park without off-street parking is eligible for a parking permit.
Provision is there, but what provision are you making for the fact that you're putting affordable housing, limited income people?
This has been asked and answered, Fred, right? They can apply for a parking permit.
Who's that, Amy?
Correct.
That's
Who's
Amy.
that, Quinn?
Amy.
Mr. McNolly, do you have another question? That question's been asked and answered.
Mayor, you're the only one being nice to me tonight. So let me thank you for that. So in other words, it'll be market competition for placards, which means if the city gives out
Question asked and answered. Next question, or else.
no, it's a different one. Okay.
Well, it sounds awful similar to me.
In other words, how can you oversell permits?
The parking question has been answered. So if you have a question about parking, you're going to be muted. If you have another question that doesn't have to do with parking, please ask it.
Okay. All right. So I'm asking that this complicated thing about central business. All right. Okay, you know what? It's a little late. I can't really compete with 9 people trying to out-talk me, so I'll wait till the next ordinance, if there is one.
Okay, next person, please.
Okay, not seeing any other hands raised. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on 2020-15?
Quinn, move to
Kendall,
close.
move it.
Quinn, second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The public hearing is now closed on 2020-15. Are there any questions or comments before we move to roll call? Not hearing any. A motion to adopt 2020-15?
Move it, Eileen Chapman?
Second, Yvonne Clayton.
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Okay, we're on to the public hearing for 2020-16, which is an ordinance of the City of Asbury Park, rezoning certain properties and adopting an updated zoning map. Beth, can you give us a brief overview?
Sure. This is an ordinance that simply dovetails with all of the ordinances that have been addressed this evening and the previous public hearing where the public hearings were started. It simply addresses the zoning of these lots to update, for example, the zoning map to address the Deal Lake Inclusionary Housing Overlay District, and to amend the zoning map to address the combination, or the combining rather, of the B1, B2, and the NC districts into the new B district. And so it simply addresses the zoning map and the zoning of particular lots. It does not include alternative or additional policies or regulations pertaining to the zoning of these lots.
Of course, you can't see anything anyway, so.
Are you finished, Beth?
Yes, sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, do I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-16?
Move to open, Quinn.
Second.
Do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The public hearing is now open on ordinance 2020-16. Members of the public may participate by dialing *9 on your phone to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I will either call upon your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to participate. When called upon, you will be unmuted to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Your comments and questions can only be about the public hearing on the ordinance being presented. I am calling upon Ernest McNolly.
Oh my God. Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive. Yeah, Ernest McNolly, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey, also known as the Santander. So, I don't think we got a concise explanation. I think you said this ordinance dovetails on to the other ones, which I understand what dovetail means, but then you said, I think, that it's going to incorporate Deal Lake Drive into a new map, which you're going to call now B, which will include...
No. Let me...
Okay, go ahead and explain. What's the effect on Deal Lake Drive? That's my question.
So if you recall from the previous public hearing, I think on the 22nd, the city considered and adopted an ordinance that created an overlay district for that portion of the R3, and it was referred to as the Deal Lake Drive Inclusionary Housing Overlay District. What that ordinance did was that it created the overlay district standards. It set forth the alternative development standards that are now adopted by the city council. And then this evening, we also considered an ordinance that created that new B district by combining the B1, B2, and the NC district into that new B district. And so what this ordinance does is it dovetails with those two ordinances in the sense that it updates the zoning map to reflect these new zone districts. So more simply, what it does is it allows this city to now have a zoning ordinance that says B district rather than NC district and B2 district. And it creates a zoning map that actually identifies the Deal Lake Inclusionary Housing Overlay District. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear when I first explained it.
Well, I think you just said what I asked. I asked, does this mean when you say dovetail, I know what all the other ordinances are. So now what you're saying is, now we want to take this compilation of ordinance that we created and passed, and we want to rename it.
We
want
show
to
it on the
consolidate
zoning
it.
map. Yeah,
In other words, I live on Deal Lake Drive. I thought I was in something called R1 or R. What was I in before? What's the Deal Lake Overdrive?
You're in the. This is Michelle Alonso. You are in R3, and
Okay.
what this does is this ordinance creates the map that pictorially shows the affordable housing ordinances that were just passed. So the R3 section that you live in will have a hatch area, and that will be the affordable housing overlay. The areas that have the name change from the B2 and the NC, the borders remain the same. They just now have a label B. That is the map change.
And what do you mean by hatch?
Hatch is a term meaning checkerboard, meaning it's just a see, so you can see through it. It's just a term for
what does
how it's shown on the map.
What does checkerboard mean?
You have a base color for the R3, and then you have some
So what are you saying? The zoning map is
lines
going to be
over it.
The zoning map's going to be red and black? Are we talking colors, literally?
Our zoning map is in color. Our zoning map on our website
I know they're in color.
is in color.
When you say, well, isn't a checkerboard, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's what, red and black?
I'm sorry if I used the wrong term in denoting color. I was trying to use a simplistic term to get my point across.
Well, you got to be very
that's why
simplistic for me, because I didn't know what hatch meant. You didn't explain that either. So now we got hatch, checkerboard, and dovetail. Now, why don't you just explain it in like legal terms to me, what you mean? In other words, what you're doing is you're going to create a zoning map from existing, in other words, with the passage of what you already passed, with the inclusion of affordable housing as an overlay. Now that's all been passed, you kind of want to clean it up in terms of visually by putting it together and calling it something else. But everything that it was before this rename or recoloring is still in effect. It's just like for the eye. Am I correct?
Mr. McNally, if I can jump in here, this is Fred Raffetto, City Attorney. Under the municipal land use law, a municipality is required to adopt an ordinance to amend a zoning map. The city had a zoning map previously, and what they're doing with this ordinance is they're updating the existing zoning map to reflect the change to the Deal Lake Drive Inclusionary Housing Overlay District and the B District.
So, Mr. Raffetto, you know I live at the Santander. Where do I live now? In what zone? If this is passed, maybe that's a better way to ask the question.
You will still be in the R3 zone, but your property will also be subject to the Deal Lake Drive Inclusionary Housing Overlay District. And that was explained very clearly in the notices that went out by regular mail and certified mail.
I didn't get them. Don't you remember, Mr. Raffetto? Mr. Raffetto. Mr. Raffetto, don't you remember I didn't get them? and a lot of other people didn't.
You said you didn't get a certified letter. I didn't realize you also didn't get the regular mail letter that
You
went.
go now. Here you are. I didn't get anything. Here you are. Here you are as a lawyer now. Now you're going to tell me what I got and didn't get. Why don't you prove what I got and didn't get?
Mr. McNolly, statements or questions on this ordinance, please.
I'd stick with you. You seem to be, Mayor, please, let me ask you, because you seem very reasonable with me tonight. So what I'm asking, I think what they're saying is, there's really no change to where I live at Santander. It's still R3. But because of things that you've passed now, in order to clean it up, maybe as you're required, you have to amend the zoning map to include affordable as an overlay onto R3, and you may call it something different, and you may color it different. Help me out, Mayor. We're almost there. Are you? I'm still in R3, so that means you're not changing the base original zoning classification. But I think, like the name is, overlay, you're going to put the affordable piece with those 8-story things that you approved on top of it. Is that correct?
I believe it to be correct, and I'll let Beth or Michelle correct me if I'm
No, I'd rather talk to you, Mayor.
But I'm not the professional, so I'll go with them saying, John.
Mayor, you're the most sensible guy in the room tonight. Stick with me. You know what this means.
Beth or Michelle, is Mr. McNolly right or wrong in his summation?
I need a recap of the question, I'm sorry to say. Mr. McNolly, can you ask your question once more and perhaps I can answer it?
Okay. I live in the Santander building. It's R3.
Yep.
There's been a lot of changes. We know. I've been in all the meetings, in all the virtuals. I've been in everything. I think I know what's going on. Okay. But what I'm asking now is a little bit of a selfish question. Okay. I'm in R3. Now it was clarified for me by the city attorney that that doesn't change. I'm still in R3. Then the city planner, Ms. Alonso, said it's sort of semantics. We're just going to rename it or something or recolor it because of the map. You're required to have an updated, I guess, zoning map, which is okay with me. So now, am I correct in saying I'm still going to be in Zone 3? Nothing really changed except the overlay ordinance that you passed, which is the inclusion of 8-story buildings and affordable housing mandates on top of, that's why you call it overlay, right? On top of the existing R3. So except for the overlay components, you're not changing anything about R3.
Correct.
You're just saying, okay, now we passed all this. Now we've got to clean it up with the zoning map. And I don't know, what are you going to do? Make a different color now for all that? Is that what the new map is going to look like?
Mr. McNolly.
I mean, how is where I live?
Mr. McNolly, you were talking, you didn't hear the answer. The answer to you was correct.
Mayor, that's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
Any more questions or comments?
No. No,
Okay, next.
I'll have to wait for the vote. I wish that you don't.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands raised, a motion to close the public hearing on 2020-16.
Move to close, Quinn.
Second. Clayton.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The public hearing is now closed on 2020-16. Are there any comments or questions before we move to roll call? Not hearing any. A motion to adopt 2020-16?
Move to adopt.
Quinn. Second, Quinn.
Okay, Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Kendall? Deputy Mayor Quinn?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-16 adopted. Any comments before we move on to adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.